Well, I was wrong about Game Pass and how Xbox was going to utilize it or talk about it in their Xbox showcase. And in my recent video, I outlined all the things that led up to me making that prediction. There were internal discussions, apparently, about whether or not they should put Call of Duty on Game Pass. There was a pretty big shift from the brand with Xbox, and seemingly Satya Nadella pushing for Xbox to change pretty significantly. And in that video, I walk through all that history, but then I analyze exactly what happened during the showcase and the significance of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass. But I also look at recent information that indicated that decision was very recent. So be sure to check out that video because I look at all the different things that are going to go into it. The developers are apparently planning and sort of buckling down because of this new influx of players that's going to come from Game Pass. I talk about the impact that will have, but I also kind of look at what this might mean for the future. I argue that this is good for Xbox if Phil Spencer is fighting the good fight against things that Microsoft wants to do. But Microsoft could come back around and really analyze this decision and come to a different conclusion than the rest of us. So it's a me cheering for Xbox and Phil Spencer video. Be sure to check it out. I know people think that I hate Xbox, which isn't true. I thought the showcase was excellent. I have my review up on this channel. I said it was great, but my only major gripe was the lack of release dates for titles supposedly coming this year, as well as just release windows, and again, a lot of cinematics and a lack of gameplay for some of the games that we've been hearing about for 4 years. You know, certain titles have shown up for the last 4 years, and we're just still not seeing very much. So, if you want to see my thoughts on the showcase, that video and that monologue is on the channel. And then the video I uploaded this morning is called Xbox All In on Game Pass. So be sure to check it out. That way you can know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, chat. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Thank you guys so much for the immense support lately for the channel. All the great turnouts for all of the videos and the coverage. Cheering. Yeah, at the end of the video, it's me. I'm cheering Phil on. I'm like, fight the good fight. Do not let Microsoft continue to impact what your studios are doing, because I actually firmly believe that Phil Spencer has been fighting a losing battle, and some of it's because of Microsoft. I think their policies make it very hard on the studios to do good work, and I would like him to, win some footing and win some ground. I think he won this fight. I think Xbox Game Pass getting Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I think that was something that Phil Spencer fought for. And Han shot first, and so did you, Joker Quinn, with the first gifted member of the day. Thank you so much. You guys have been absolutely crushing it lately, and the goal this week was 400 for a scary game, and you guys are well ahead of pace. You have 311 members already, so you only need 89, okay? Which you guys could hit that today. 400, and I got to play the scary game. If you get the stretch goal beyond that and you get to 500, then Madam can mess with me while I play the game on Friday night. You guys really enjoyed that the last time that we did that. Starfield on PS5 when? Probably after the DLC has been my guess. So many games at the showcase have me excited. Get them to me in a good state and I will be happy, says Commando G-Man. And that's something that I talked about in the video. If Satya Nadella and the CFO of Xbox and the plan going forward is, hey, we want to publish our games in high-margin markets. We want to start to basically sell games in places where we're going to make a good return on those games, then you cannot be shipping games the way that you've been doing it. You simply can't. The quality hasn't been there. The games have clearly not been ready. How much time are you going to spend fixing Starfield? How much have they tried to fix Forza? How much do they have to do to try to fix Redfall? And now they're basically abandoning Redfall. You cannot release games in that state. You simply cannot. If you're going to try to sell games like Doom and other big name titles, and you want to sell those on PlayStation or Nintendo, they need to be launching at better quality. And my hope would be that they could get out from underneath the policies that made things hard on 343 and Halo Infinite, and is likely making things hard on these other studios. Why do creative directors and directors keep leaving? I don't think it's Phil Spencer. I don't think it's him. I think it's Microsoft. I think I've said for a very long time that they're antithetical to creative process. I really do. And I think that Phil Spencer ultimately won a fight and said, listen, If you want to get rid of the idea of exclusives and lean more heavily into publishing, that's fine. We can do that. You spend a lot of money. We got to make a return on that. But if you get rid of the idea of first-party titles like Call of Duty, if you remove that and they don't hit Game Pass, then you've completely eradicated the soul of Xbox. Like, what is Xbox at that point other than a game publisher? There would be no reason for anybody to have any sense of loyalty to the brand. I think Phil fought that fight. I think when we heard there were internal debates and when the people from Treyarch just confirmed that that's a very new development. They're like, yeah, we just found out about Game Pass. Like, this is a new thing. I think it's because internally Microsoft was pushing them to not do it. They were pushing and saying, listen, you're going to sell way more copies. You can't let 25 million people not purchase Call of Duty. It's too big of a title. The Black Ops 1, I believe, has the record of most sold. It's either Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2. I think they're both very close to each other. They both essentially have over 30 million sales. 30 million. You almost have that many people on Game Pass. Now you have Game Pass Core in the mix that takes it to 34 million. They can't get Black Ops 6. They have to buy it, right? They wouldn't be able to get it. It's not included in Core because those are just Xbox Live Gold people that have been converted. So everybody on Xbox Console, Ultimate, and PC Game Pass, all of those people can get Black Ops 6. That's 25 million people. That's almost as many people that bought some of the best-selling Call of Duties. So you have to consider what that means. Logistically, it means a ton more people will be in there day one, which can cause issues for your servers, and then your paying customers are going to be a little irritated that there's suddenly this massive influx of players that are causing issues. Like, that could obviously be an optics problem and a frustration for those who said, but we've never had these issues before, right? I don't know if that's true. Call of Duty, probably like all games, has its server issues day one. But from where I sit, they were considering not doing it at the direction of Microsoft. And I think Phil Spencer and I think the Xbox team went to bat and said, if you do this, if we don't put Black Ops 6 on Game Pass, then Xbox will be, the credibility will be gone, consumer confidence will be gone. Everybody's going to just think that we're just making things up as we go, because it kind of feels like that this year. You're like, yeah, just 4 games, and then you indicate in an interview that every game's on the table, and then you indicate in this interview with IGN that like more games are going to be showing up on other platforms. And Phil knows he's got to go out and say these things. He knows he's going to have to answer questions about Doom being multiplat. He knows that's going to happen. And he knows, listen, if I'm going to have to go out here and explain why titles that I previously indicated would be exclusive are not being exclusive, I've got to be able to still wave the banner for Game Pass. And if you take that ability away from me, this is going to be a PR disaster. You can't have a good showcase if we can't stress Game Pass for one of our biggest releases. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to be the biggest game of the year. It's going to sell the most copies. It'll be at the top of every chart. And to not be able to put that on Game Pass, I think, is something that Phil Spencer fought for. Huge risk for Xbox. Game Pass doesn't seem sustainable. I mean, that's the other side of this coin. The other side of this coin is that if my theory is correct, by the way, guys, take a quick second. There's almost 400 of you here. We've only been streaming for like 8 minutes. Smash that like button. Let's have a strong start to the day. I think this is a good topic because I think there's multiple angles to look at here. From one angle, if my theory is correct, I'm cheering for Phil. I'm like, Phil, fight this fight. Fight against Microsoft. Don't let them corporatize Xbox. Don't let them do that, right? Case by case. He didn't say case by case in 2021 when he met with ZeniMax and said all titles going forward are exclusive. This came out of the FTC trial. At case by case is irrelevant at that point. We argued about this at the time, Mo, and you I believe it was you that told me they can do whatever they want. They own the property. And I said, well, it's not case by case if you tell ZeniMax that all their property going forward is exclusive, right? So that changed. Phil lost that fight. I think Phil was going with that old strategy. It was like, we're going to bolster up Game Pass. We're going to shore up exclusives for our platform. We're going to get people to come to our platform, right? We're going to get people to come over. And I think Microsoft walked in the room and said, we're not doing exclusives anymore. CFO indicates we want to move our property into high margin markets. And Minecraft was the catalyst for all of this. They saw how well Minecraft did, how much money they could make, and they said, let's just do that with all of our property. And I think Phil fought back and said, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. You could almost sense it in that podcast early this year. It didn't feel like he was talking. It didn't feel like he was really on the ball. It felt like he was pushing out Microsoft talking points. And it didn't seem like that was how they wanted to handle the situation. So then we hear that they're debating internally about whether or not they should put Call of Duty on Game Pass. And I believe the reason that they were debating that is in a similar vein. I think Microsoft said there are pieces of property that are too big to put on Game Pass. Call of Duty is one of those things. And I think Phil fought back and said, you can't take this. If you take this from the brand, then the brand is dead. Nobody will have confidence in the brand anymore. We're trying to hold on to the existing Game Pass subscribers that we have. We're going to start trying convincing people to subscribe to Game Pass through their televisions, their tablets, their mobile phones, all these different avenues. And if you shake the foundations of Game Pass by basically not putting our biggest game on Game Pass, you're going to make people say, what in the world? Why would I subscribe to Game Pass? I don't even know what's going to consistently land there. I can't find this email about Phil saying all games are exclusive. There is quite literally headlines and articles about the CFO reacting to Phil Spencer telling ZeniMax that all titles will be exclusive. If you search for Phil Spencer ZeniMax 2021 meeting exclusive, you should find it. Right here from IGN, Phil Spencer seemingly... why is their website being crazy? Phil Spencer seemingly, this is the wrong frame. Hang on a second. Let's just go full screen. I don't have this. I set that for Summer Game Fest. Let's go to this. Phil Spencer seemingly decided to make all ZeniMax games exclusives in a 2021 meeting. This came out of the FTC meeting, right? And Stewart responded and said, all games going forward, not just new IP, but all games going forward. Wow. And Matt Booty confirms. Booty confirmed that during the chat conversation, writing, Phil Spencer told them all titles going forward Xbox exclusive. This is a matter of actual discovery in a legal process. This is fact. This is objectively true that took place. That happened. So everybody wants to hand wave Doom. I tried to tell you guys when the Doom story broke, I was like, something internally has changed. Because just 3 years ago, Phil Spencer walked in and just went boom. And he's like, all your stuff is exclusive. I think he was going by the old playbook. We're going to shore up exclusives. We're going to bolster up Game Pass. And we're going to turn this ship around. We're going to get people to come to our platform. And I think as time went on, it was like Microsoft said, no, this isn't going to work. Because Starfield, the stat that they bragged about with Starfield was we got the single most brand new Game Pass subscribers in a day. It didn't make a dent on hardware. Hardware continues to fall for them. And so I believe he lost that fight. It was like, listen, Phil, exclusives aren't going to turn the needle. If Starfield, the most talked about game of 2023, one of the biggest releases we're going to have in a long time, if it didn't move the hardware needle, then nothing will. They know Call of Duty won't move the needle. Too many people that play Call of Duty are loyal to PlayStation, or they're already over on PlayStation, and you got to launch it on PlayStation because you need that money. So you're not going to get those people to come over because you're going to keep you're going to keep Call of Duty as a multiplat. So the point is that if you're going to do that, if you're going to take our ability away to do exclusives, I think Phil Spencer said, you've got to let us put Call of Duty on Game Pass. You have to. You're talking about Xbox again. Why do you constantly grift towards ponies? Your entire community is just ponies. This entire community is not just ponies, and grifting implies that I'm conning people or being disingenuous. And in my show open, in my monologue that's on the channel right now, I talk about the value of Game Pass. I talk about how this seems like Phil won a fight against Microsoft and how I'm cheering for him and Xbox to push back against what Microsoft has been pushing for. I think Microsoft is clueless when it comes to video games. I think Phil Spencer gets it. I think he knows what's necessary. He's been watching creative directors leave. They've been losing staff, and I think it's because of what we found out about 343. I think a lot of these studios are like, we can't work in these conditions. You can't have all of our contracted employees leaving every 18 months. I've tried to tell people all last year. I tried to tell people earlier this year. It's never, ever been about Xbox. It's always been about Microsoft. I've always been critical of like Microsoft's policy with 18 months. That's not an Xbox thing. The lack of titles that you have right now, the reason we're still not getting gameplay, the reason that we don't have release dates for games, the reason that this stuff's taking so long to come to market is because of those decisions. Now, I think some of that is obviously related to the Series S. We don't know who made those hardware choices. I do think that has been a significant hurdle this generation for the developers to get games to market quickly. We know from third-party developers the pattern is emerging that they can't bring games to Xbox as quickly as the other platforms, and it's because of the Series S. So all the first-party studios are probably facing the exact same challenge. So we got to lay that at Xbox's feet. That part I will lay at Xbox's feet. But if you're going to see, which we are, with Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass, everyone said, whenever it was being reported that they were like internally discussing, there were a lot of people saying out there that like, no, that this is coming to Game Pass. This was always coming to Game Pass. This was never in doubt. This was never a decision, which isn't true. We just learned from the folks at Treyarch. I show the article in that video, my upload this morning. Treyarch's like, yeah, this is a fairly new decision. We didn't know this was going to happen. It was basically internally being discussed. It was in doubt. We weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. And which Treyarch is now saying, we're going to have a whole lot of people in the game that may have never played before. Maybe they haven't played one in a really, really long time, right? That's one of the beauties of Game Pass, is that you can play a game that maybe you skip every single sports game that ever comes out or every single driving game that ever comes out. Well, if one of those lands on Game Pass, you're like, well, I might try that one out. My buddy plays. Let me see if this is any fun. We saw this with Lies of P. A lot of people completely avoid Souls games. They just do. They're like, I don't want to play a Souls game. I was that way for a very long time. Guess what happened? I played Jedi Fallen Order, and I was like, I kind of like this difficulty. I like how hard this is. I turned the difficulty up, did a second playthrough, and that sort of gave me a catalyst into playing games with really hard combat. Well, I had to play a game to get there. Well, Game Pass can get you there. It can get you into a game that you ordinarily would skip. So now Treyarch is facing down that barrel of, there's going to be a whole lot of people jumping into Black Ops 6 Day 1 that we probably weren't going to have otherwise. They were going to skip. They were going to wait. Now, I'm not saying everybody on Game Pass is going to be new to Call of Duty, but there's going to be a percentage of people in there. That's 25 million people. And Call of Duty is a monolithic game. Like, everybody knows Call of Duty. So you're going to have 25 million people that could jump in that maybe they haven't played a Call of Duty in 10 years. Maybe they just never have. Maybe they don't like them, you know. Playing a Souls game is the only way to get your soul back. So, you know, Treyarch indicated that this was a new decision. They weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. And I got news for you. That's why Phil Spencer kicked off the showcase with Black Ops 6, the first Call of Duty ever coming to Game Pass. Because I think he fought for that. That's what I believe. I think Microsoft wants to turn all the property and they want to turn the platform into literally just a branch of Microsoft. They don't care. They don't care if they break consumer trust on Game Pass because Game Pass is not a high margin for them. It doesn't make them a lot of money. It doesn't. So they're looking at it and saying, everybody always wants to look at the revenue generation of Game Pass. It's not about the revenue, it's about the profit. And when they said in that CFO, at that summit where the CFO says, we're going to be moving our property into high margin markets, he's like, this isn't a high margin market. Putting everything on Game Pass is not high margin. Selling the game on another platform, well, that's a high margin. You're making money on every single sale, especially now that games are $70 a piece. How many months until the Schreier tell-all? On what exactly? Blade will be an answer to Spider-Man? I don't think I would do that to Blade. I don't think that's very fair to Blade. I wouldn't pit Blade against Spider-Man. Spider-Man globally is the most popular superhero in existence. He's more popular than Superman and Batman. So globally, Spider-Man is king. So I would be careful setting up Blade for that kind of a comparison. I don't think that Blade is meant to be an answer to Spider-Man. I think Blade is going to be a multi-plat game, and coming from the team that it's coming from, I think it's going to be awesome. I think Arcane Leon's going to make a great game, but I wouldn't pit that against Spider-Man. I think you're making a mistake by doing that. Omar with 26 months and a member plus, Bender voice. I have all the milestones. Compare your lives to mine and then. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but thanks. Oh, man. You guys, there's a ton of people here already this morning. Make sure and smash that like button. Let's set our sights on 200 likes. We could probably hit 200 likes right now. So double check. Sometimes you guys got to double check the like. Make sure you did that. It's like a ritual when you come in. Blade is probably a multi-platform. I can almost guarantee you that Blade is multi-platform. With everything that we're learning about what Microsoft is asking essentially Xbox to do and what Microsoft is signaling, I can't see Blade not being multi-platform. It doesn't make any sense. You didn't even announce it as an exclusive. You don't have to walk anything back. You announced it and you made no mention of platform, which at the time I told people, I was like, if that was an exclusive, you'd be screaming that from the rooftops. And they didn't. And nothing on any of the marketing has any mention of Xbox or Game Pass. And I remember everybody hand-waving that. Not everybody, but the people that didn't agree with me were just hand-waving that. They're like, no, Pony, Blade's definitely going to be an exclusive. Oh, okay, well, why? Why wouldn't you say it from moment one? There's no doubt in my mind now that it's a multi-plat. Why on earth would you not make it multi-plat? It's a Marvel game, for Pete's sakes, right? Yeah, if Doom is multi-plat, why would you not make Blade multi-plat? Remember, ZeniMax was told, hey, all your stuff's going to be exclusive, and that's clearly not true now. So I believe all ZeniMax games and AB games going forward will be multi-platform. Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't. If you haven't made any promises, there's no reason for it to not be a multi-plat. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what if they've not made any assurances to you or the public, and even the games that they told you were going to be exclusive or were touted as an exclusive, they're coming over. I mean, it's like even games that they're like, yeah, well, not anymore. I mean, there was never any promise that they would always be exclusive. It was just that, hey, this is an exclusive. And in the back of their mind, they might have been thinking, yeah, for now, it's an exclusive. Marvel knows how many sales they would lose if it's not on PlayStation. Oh, for sure. I think the Marvel Blade situation is very similar to the Lego Horizon situation. It's like Marvel comes to the table and is like, you'd be kind of crazy to not put a Marvel game on PlayStation. Like, all the Spider-Man games have done incredibly well. Wolverine's probably going to sell incredibly well. Like, you got to put this game on PlayStation. Lego probably said the same thing to PlayStation. Like, listen, if we're going to partner and we're going to make a Lego game, you got to put it on Nintendo. We've got a really, really good build. We can downscale certain things and get it to run over there. Our Lego games crush over there. We got to put it over there. I mean, it doesn't even cross my mind that as an impossibility. It's like, no, they definitely had that conversation, and I think Marvel had a similar conversation with Xbox and Arcane. Is like, listen, if you're gonna make a Marvel game, you got to put it over there because it'll do great. You can't keep it off of there. Is Wolverine a PlayStation exclusive? I'm assuming it will be. Yes. PlayStation has shown no sign of not doing exclusives anymore. They haven't. I know people are trying to clickbait and rage bait with Lego Horizon. Okay. If you think that's a signal they're getting rid of exclusives, I mean, I guess go ahead. You might as well go ahead and try and take Jeff Keighley to task for what he said about the Gears trailer, as that has beautifully blown up in the faces of all those liars. Because I told you they were lying. I was like, this isn't true. And truth always wins out in the end. Jeff Keighley's tweet has had its community note removed and a public apology from a guy who didn't even work on the trailer and talked as if he did. So, I don't think there's an indication that PlayStation... I don't think there's an indication that Nintendo is going away from exclusives. I really don't. I don't think those platforms will move away from exclusives. The market isn't being dictated by Xbox's current strategy. I don't think so. I really don't. So, You know, there's a huge open wide world full out there. The consoles aren't going to lose billions just because you and your friends are going to PC. Oh, is somebody saying they're going to PC? I mean, yeah, go to PC. You should go where you feel you're getting the most value. You should. And if the market ever does that, I'll be kind of shocked. I will. Guys, take a second and smash that like button, man. There's almost 600 people here. We're having that thing again where I'm like, hey, y'all, let's get some likes. And it doesn't work. So make sure it's saving your like. It continues to be weird. We've had weird ingest server things. Every time we've done a member stream lately, we switch ingest servers and we get a big blip. I'm not sure what YouTube is doing, but double check that real quick. And thank you to the Joker Quinn for gifting that member earlier. Appreciate you, dude. PC growth year over year, 8.4%. Console growth year over year, 0.3%. I feel like that's a terrible comparison given all of the people in PC that are not particularly... Do you know that they're buying specifically for gaming? Like, where are these reports coming from? I've seen people touting PC's growth in these debates. I had somebody put it in one of the comments on one of my videos, and I was like, okay, but how do we know that these people are buying PCs at the level of like a mid to high end gaming rig? Like, I don't necessarily think that's... I would want to see the report and would want to see the types of PCs that are being included in those stats, because we also have to consider there are parts of the world that are exploding with PC growth, and I don't know what level of hardware they're buying. With NVIDIA going AI, gamers are not going to get special treatment for a long time. Prices will be high for a long time. Performance will be limited to keep separation from AI cards. Walmart corporate bought 30,000 PCs. Rock On Gaming. This game sales in a discussion chat. Oh, it was a game sales. Oh, so you're saying there's a growth of PC game sales year over year and that console game sales are slowing down? Is that what you're arguing? Because when we looked at the revenue reports, console actually still wins, and then Gen Z is actually playing more on console. So I'm not sure if those trajectories will hold, but if it's game sales situation, that's not surprising, honestly. I'm not surprised that there are better if there's a growth of game sales. Is it a growth of revenue as well, or is it just a percentage of sales? I would want to look at the report, because if you're able to buy a game for $10 and that counts as a sale versus the $70 that primarily makes up the games on console, you know, if it's pure quantity of sales, then is it a revenue measurement or is it a quantity of sales measurement? Like, what was measured in the report? That's what I would want to know. People buy games on PC instead of using Game Pass. I don't know about that. I mean, certainly there are far more people using Steam than Game Pass, but Game Pass on PC is the greater proportion of Game Pass. I believe the report that we saw said like 15 million of the 25 million Game Pass subscribers are on PC. So, and Phil seemed to indicate in an interview, I forget which interview it was, he seemed to indicate in an interview that they saw opportunities for growth specific to PC Game Pass in the Japanese market. Yes, purely on sales. Not saying PC is higher than console sales generally. I was responding to a statement that there is no influx of PC gamers. Oh, well, no, PC is having growth. Yeah, I mean, the trajectories for PC gaming are very good. That's why Capcom and PlayStation changed their strategies a couple years ago. I don't know why anybody would say that PC's not having an influx or not having growth. That's true. That analysis was made a couple of years ago. They were like, yeah, there's going to be an explosion of PC gaming, and I forget it was there's parts of the world that are just going to explode, in particular with PCs. And then Capcom and PlayStation changed their strategies internally. They were like, we need to start putting our games over there. There's going to be really good growth. There's really good money to be made. So, yeah, I don't know if there's ever going to... I've always argued against the notion that consoles will die and all that will be left is PCs. I think those predictions are ludicrous. But for somebody to say that PC's not having growth, that's simply untrue. PC is having growth. If you're talking about sales, I was just curious about the data. Like, is it quantity of sales? Is it revenue? Or is it, because when we looked at those one reports, it was like, well, console generates more revenue than PC gaming. So when you said that, I was like, oh, is that changing? Is PC starting to generate more revenue? If it's quantity of sales, that's not really a fair comparison because, somebody can buy 7 games at $10 and then I'm over here buying one game for $70, right? There's no explosion. PC sales have been slowing. I mean, if the trajectories didn't hold true, but the thing that I saw, I can't even remember when I looked at it. I believe it was a report that talked about, global PC growth, global PC gaming growth. And it was essentially what influenced Capcom and PlayStation to start entertaining the idea of putting more things on PC because of the growth that they were anticipating. So, I don't know. I don't follow that, so I can't speak to it. I can only tell you that from what I've heard and what I've seen in the last couple of years is that PC is experiencing growth. I've given up on Acolyte. This show is trash. By far the worst Star Wars Disney has created. I'm generally pretty optimistic about Star Wars. I'm not even going to watch it, Sven. I wanted them to have the data point of, like, I opened up Disney and went to the show, and then I closed Disney. Like, I want to be on a graph somewhere. I want to be one of the people that literally didn't watch it. They were like, well, this guy watches everything Star Wars. He didn't even watch this freaking show. I wouldn't even give him, I wouldn't even open it. I was like, no, this is garbage. I could tell from moment one it was bad. I've watched way too much. I don't want to, we were going to get off on that. I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, I've watched way too much Star Wars for that to be the case. We got to get back on topic. You guys do this. You guys start warring in the chat about stuff that's irrelevant, like fighting back and forth about whether or not PC's having growth or PC's having influx. Has nothing to do with the topic. We are 31 minutes in and you guys are way out in wildland. Come back onto the train tracks with me here. If Xbox is doubling down on Game Pass, the question that I have is, if my theory is correct that this was a fight and Xbox won the fight and Microsoft said, okay, fine, you can go forward with this, is there a point in time where Microsoft says we have to fiscally analyze this? Like, my concern would be Microsoft, I'm not talking about Xbox, Microsoft won't be pleased with the results. That's what I'm concerned with. Is like, if Microsoft isn't pleased with the results of putting the biggest game of 2024 on Game Pass, they're going to come behind and they're going to push for more changes. Yo, what's good, Doc? A 5-bomb from Charles Freeman takes us to 6 members on the day. Thank you so much, Charles Freeman. I appreciate it. You guys started out the week so strong and you're well on your way to another milestone. Thank you very much. Doc says, Xbox is Game Pass, brother. Been saying it for years. Give me my flowers. Doc, I'll give you your flowers right now. I was wrong. I said it in my video. I said it in this show. I said, I think they're going to downplay Game Pass at the showcase. I thought they got the Black Ops 6 Game Pass announcement out of the way. Because they announced it on like May 28th. I'm like, why wouldn't you save that announcement for the game showcase? And I watched your video, and Doc, to his credit, was like, listen to me, Xbox. He's like, you need to double down on Game Pass. He's like, you need to make the showcase all about Game Pass. And I told you guys in front of a live studio audience, I said, I don't think Doc's going to get what he wants. I think Xbox is going to downplay Game Pass. And they didn't. They didn't. Every trailer ended, and it was like, play it day one with Game Pass. Play it day one with Game Pass. And I was like, well, I was wrong. I was wrong. Oh, I was supposed to put a 6, and I put a 5. Hang on. That's going to take us to 11 members on the day. Charles Freeman with another 5-bomb. Thank you so much. And Brett Williams, the 13 months, says, PC players that want Game Pass already have it. Xbox Game Pass subs are saturated, and PlayStation players aren't jumping to another platform. It will backfire, says Brett Williams. That's my question for you, Doc. That's my question for you. I argued this morning. I think Phil fought for this. That's what I think. I'm cheering for Phil. I've always liked Phil. I've liked Xbox for a really long time, and I've always tried to tell you guys this is more about Microsoft than it is about Xbox. And I'm telling you, My concern is that Microsoft is going to analyze this fiscally, and they're going to say, this is stupid. We are not doing this ever again. They're corporate. They don't care. They're so corporately minded. They don't care. Look at what they did to 343 and Halo. You think Microsoft cares? They don't care. They don't care about Game Pass. I don't think they like it. I think they want to get rid of it. If I was Microsoft, I'd be like, get rid of that crap. If they want the games, they'll buy the games. And I think Phil said, if you do that, you murder the brand. The brand won't be trustworthy anymore. We won't have a brand. If you take away exclusives and you take away day one Game Pass, what do we have left? What's our offer? What's our value proposition? You've been bashing Xbox for the longest? Yeah, I've been very critical of things that they've done as a big fan of Xbox. I bought their Series X before I bought a PlayStation 5. I have way more titles on Xbox. I mained Xbox. Xbox is what got me back into console gaming. And I hated all the decisions they were making. I didn't like what they were doing. Do you ever do that with a sports team that you really like? You can't stand the decisions they're making? I don't want to talk Star Wars with you guys. I do the same thing with Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It makes me far more critical of the things they've done with Star Wars, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. You don't passionately criticize things that you hate. That's bizarre. Lono, the gravy train can't last forever, so I agree. I think Phil was able to let them know how bad it will be. Lono, if they stop day and date now, it would have been suicidal. I agree with you, Doc. I agree with you. I thought they were going to do it quietly. To be quite honest with you, I thought they were going to walk out and just blow everybody's socks off with Black Ops 6 and just not say a word about Game Pass. Like when we heard they were internally debating about not putting it on Game Pass, I was like, if they don't put it on Game Pass, they won't even mention it. They won't talk about it. Now in the interviews, I don't know how they were going to handle that. That's probably what Phil said. He's like, what do you expect me to do? I'm going to sit down to do interviews with outlets, and that's going to be a burning question. Why didn't you put Black Ops 6 on Game Pass? Like, that was one of the great reasons for the Activision Blizzard deal. Why wouldn't you do this? That 100% would have gone over so poorly in interviews. It would have, like, I guarantee you, Phil's like, you can't do this. You're going to murder the brand. You'll murder me. He's like, I won't even be trustworthy anymore. Nobody's going to want to listen to me. We're already closing down Tango, for crying out loud, and laying people off. We can't walk back Game Pass. Doc says, I have a question for you, Lono. Why bring new Xbox consoles? They think they're getting more Game Pass ups? Doc, I watched your video on that this morning, and I'm with you. I was bewildered by that hardware announcement. I was like, what are y'all doing? What is this? Your hardware sales are terrible right now. Why would you make more? It made no sense, Doc. It made more sense to tease a handheld. That was the rumor. The rumor was, sorry for bumping the mic. The rumor was they were going to tease a handheld. That would make way more sense than what they announced. I was like, what? Like, what is this? A digital Series X and a more expensive Series X? Like, what are y'all doing? Like, who's buying this? It made no sense. Like, they constrained production of the Series X for the first couple years of the generation. Like, they made less of them because they were trying to bolster cloud. They made more Series S's. And now they're like, hey, we're 4 years into the gen. Here's a digital Series X and a collector's edition Series X. It's like, what? I was like, all right. What? That was the only part of the showcase that made no sense to me. Like, the emphasis on Game Pass made sense. I was like, okay, I get it. I see what y'all are doing. Phil won the good fight. The only way this brand stays intact is you got to maintain some of the value proposition of the last 5 years. Like, you can't get rid of exclusives and get rid of day and date on Game Pass. As Doc said, that'd be suicidal. 2 different Series X's. Doc, you and me have always been brothers in the fact that we feel we're disgruntled Series X owners. We feel like we got basically a second fiddle console that has gotten no love, okay? Now, that might change very soon. I don't know. I mean, because I told people, I was like, if that Starfield DLC is a Phantom Liberty moment for Starfield, you guys will see me playing Starfield on my Xbox because they gave me 60 FPS, which is why I didn't play it there. And if they give me a DLC that turns that game around, because I played Phantom Liberty, I just couldn't go back to Starfield. I just didn't like it after. Phantom Liberty was just a superior game as far as like an RPG with guns and conversations and decisions. Like, I just thought, I can't go back. If they can turn that around, it's like, okay, I'll turn my Series X on. And who knows? You've got Avowed, you've got Indiana Jones, you've got Stalker 2. If these games can come out and they look and run well, okay, my Series X suddenly has a little bit of value. We're 4 years into the gen. It's a little late, but better late than never. Better than to sit there and not do anything. So I'm with you, Doc. I'm like, dude, I've been a disgruntled Series X owner for 4 years. You guys haven't given me anything, and now you're fine. What's going on? Now you're selling Series X's? Like, okay. Like, what? I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Yeah. Do they still make tablets? I know they make laptops. I thought their laptops were like a combination, weren't they? Eric says, Lono, what if the strategy from Xbox is an overwhelming success? Do you see Sony doing more multiplat, including Xbox? Okay, Eric, that's a good question. Let's say that Xbox is incredibly successful at this publishing endeavor. Doom sells like crazy because it looks really good. Doom's my game of the week. From all of Summer Game Fest, Doom was the one that got me the most excited. That's my childhood of gaming. Like my introduction into serious gaming was on a PC with Doom, Quake 2, Quake 3, Unreal Tournament, Call of Duty. I'm from those days, okay? These guys out here that want to call me a fraud and act like I don't play games. It's like, I've been playing games since before you were probably born, okay? I was there at the birth of these franchises. I was there at the birth of some of these genres, even the idea of a shooter. Like, the first shooter I ever played was Wolfenstein 3D, like the actual first one. So Doom absolutely was my game of the week. I didn't like Doom Eternal as much as Doom 2016. I liked 2016 better because Eternal was fantastic until the Marauders. I thought the Marauders ruined the rhythm of the game. We've debated that up one side and down the other. There are people who hate the Marauders and there are people who think the Marauders are fantastic. Basically, there's the people who are right and there's the people who are wrong, but that's beside the point. So, I think Doom looks fantastic. So let's say Doom sells like crazy. Let's say Blade sells like crazy. Let's say they bring Indiana Jones and Avowed and Hellblade 2. Let's say they just start bringing all their titles over to PlayStation and they sell an insane amount, okay? Your question is, will that success lead to PlayStation doing multiplat? No, it won't. For a handful of reasons. Number one, it would be incredibly disruptive to suddenly ask their first-party developers to build games for the Nintendo Switch 2. There's no business angle where you would also then have them create games for a console that has terrible saturation. The Xbox Series consoles have terrible saturation. They're falling behind the previous generation, and the previous generation was bad. Not only that, if you make your games for Xbox, you got to make them for the Series S and the X, and third-party developers are already running into that problem, right? Wukong is just one more game that's going to come to Xbox late because of the Series S. Call it what it is. Quit blaming the devs. You look stupid. When you blame the devs, you just look like an ignorant caveman. Like, be a thinking person, all right? Use some logic here. There's a pattern of third-party games coming to Xbox late because of the Series S. I don't think PlayStation's ever going to go down that road. There's no money in it. They're going to waste tons of money degrading their product to bring it to the Switch because, let's be honest, they're going to get their developers to start pushing the PS5 Pro's power. They're not going to want to downgrade games to the Switch 2. They're not. Why would they do that? Well, Lego Horizon, it's a Lego game. That's not even remotely in the category of like The Last of Us 3. You think The Last of Us 3 is like coming to the Switch or Xbox? Like, that's not going to happen. So even if Xbox is massively successful as a publisher, I don't think PlayStation changes their strategy. There are publishers right now that do an incredible job. They'd make tons of money. You think Tencent and NetEase are making PlayStation question their strategy? Like, they're big publishers that make tons of money. That doesn't have an impact on PlayStation's strategy. PlayStation's strategy is centered around the hardware. They have a hardware-centric strategy. This is something that frustrated me with Xbox this generation, because if you go back and watch the Project Scarlet marketing, it seemed like we were going to get a hardware-centric strategy. They were stressing 120 frames per second, no load times. They were showing you the hardware. They were showing people in like labs working on the hardware, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to push hardware. And then they didn't. And so when I look at PlayStation, their entire strategy just seems completely different. It seems antithetical to being like, no, we're going to be a publisher now. I think Sony will have to change their strategy. I think Nintendo and PlayStation are market leaders, and the market loser won't make them change their strategy. The market loser is switching to different train tracks. I don't connect the logic of like Xbox is going to get them to change their strategy. The same people that said PlayStation's going to have to change their strategy are the ones that were saying the market's in trouble and PlayStation's down bad. They're going to have to change, and PlayStation's like, we're having the best generation we've ever had. We're very pleased with the PlayStation 5. Things are great. And everyone's like, oh. And they're like, oh yeah, and we're also not going to move to day and date on PC, which those same people were telling us that was coming. So it's like, I don't know why anybody would put stock into that prediction. It's like that prediction's been made by people who don't do any business analysis. They just project Xbox onto the industry. They're like, Xbox is the industry. Like, consoles are struggling. No, Xbox consoles are struggling. Like, they're going to have to change their strategy. No, Xbox has to change their strategy. Like, it just isn't even logically, it's not even sound. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, yeah, they're them too. And it's like, I don't think so. If you think Nintendo is going to change, like, are you kidding me? The Switch 2 is going to be, I think the Switch 2 is probably going to be insane. The Switch is already insane. The sequel to it's probably going to be even better as far as like saturation and how many people they get to buy it. But when Sony is selling games from their competitor, isn't that weird from a business point of view? Why is it weird from a business point of view? The Xbox CFO said, we're going to be selling our games on platforms we previously considered competitors. Do you think PlayStation considers Xbox a competitor? Does PlayStation consider... Did PlayStation consider Activision Blizzard a competitor a couple of years ago? Did they? Did they consider EA a competitor? Does PlayStation consider Ubisoft a competitor? I think people that come at this discussion from the angle that you're coming at, you're operating under an old framework. Your framework is, look at PlayStation. Yeah, they're selling Xbox games. You know what PlayStation's doing? They're like, yeah, we are. count all that money from games we didn't have to make, market, or publish. Whoo, what a tragedy. Like, they don't care. They don't care. You seriously think, like, when they were like, oh, man, Call of Duty is just banging on our platform, and we're not the ones that publish it or market it. That's a real bad look. They're like, no. They're like, here, take this stack of cash and just slide that into the bank with the rest of it. Not a couple of years ago, but surely anything coming out of Microsoft is a competitor's product. No, it's not. It would only be viewed as the competitor's product if the product was being leveraged in a competitive way. Do you understand that, like, they're not marketing it, they're not leveraging it in a competitive way? Like, bringing Hi-Fi Rush to PlayStation, let's use that as an example, or Sea of Thieves. How is that being leveraged in a competitive way? They're just putting it on another platform, making money, and PlayStation's making money as well. It doesn't... It's not being leveraged in a competitive way. It's just, we're just going to go over here and sell it to make more money. Now, if they were doing something like, yeah, we'll put it over there, but we're going to try to motivate people to come over to our platform with the product, I think that'd be maybe a different discussion. Microsoft's going to be milking Sony and funding their ecosystem. Sony will have to switch up their strat, otherwise they will continue to be used by their competitor and slowly slip from first. What do you mean milking them? What do you mean? What, like, let's just say that Black Ops 6 is the #1 selling game of 2024 because it will be. How is that milking Sony? How? Nothing has changed for Sony. It's a game that they're not publishing. It's a game that they make a 30% cut on. It's been that way for years. So because the money's going somewhere else, they're being milked? How exactly? I got nibbles, can you milk me? Like from that movie? Like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense. They're like, Sony doesn't care if more games come to their platform for them to make money off of. It's like, it doesn't hurt them. It's just more revenue for them. I already know where Lono is going with this, and thank you for explaining it. Where am I going with this, Omar? What do you think? Where do you think I'm going? I'm not sure. Now I'm nervous about what I'm going to say next. Jinx, yeah, Eugene, I knew you were going to make that joke. I got nibbles, can you milk me? Yeah, millions of dollars a year, hundreds of millions of dollars a year for doing nothing. It's just profit for PlayStation. PlayStation's not spending a dime. Like, they're not having to market the game, publish the game. They're not having to house the servers. They're just like, thanks for the money. Like interpreting that as milking PlayStation is just weird. See, again, I feel like you're coming at it from a mindset of Xbox and PlayStation are competing. I need you to answer this question for me, okay? If Xbox and PlayStation are competing, you need to answer the question, competing for what? What are they competing for? What is it exactly? Because there was a time where they were competing for users. They wanted people to buy their consoles. Do you think that's still going on? Do you think Xbox is trying to get users? They're trying to get console users? No. They're trying to get monthly active users. They're not trying to get console users. What Xbox is focusing on, and this is actually how they get out of the fight. They're like, we can't win the console war. That is over. But what we can do is we can get as many MAUs as possible. Monthly active users. That's power. And PlayStation isn't harmed by that. PlayStation's not harmed by that. Like, how long has Microsoft owned Minecraft? Has that hurt PlayStation in any way? Like, oh, well, they make money from Minecraft. Xbox can now brag about their MAUs because they can include, Minecraft in the count. PWH Town with a $5 super chat tip says, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Right now, PlayStation is more important to Microsoft than Xbox is. MAU is all they care about. This is correct, but I think they care about them in different ways, Daniel Lawson. I believe that PlayStation looks at MAU. Oh, the milking explanation. Okay, Omar. They look at MAU from a perspective of how many people are in our hardware ecosystem. Listen to what Herman Holst said about why they bring their tentpole titles to PC. He didn't say, well, we want more MAUs. He said, we're hoping that might coax them to come over into the PlayStation hardware ecosystem. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. It's completely different for Xbox. Xbox is not trying to get you to come into their hardware ecosystem. They just want you buying and playing their game. That's all that matters to them at this point. EA, Ubisoft, Epic with Fortnite, that's all they care about is we need as many people as possible playing our game. And Microsoft and Xbox are taking on that viewpoint. They're saying, well, now this is what matters. We need people playing our games. We need MAUs in the games. Like, they've been counting Minecraft for how long? That shows you they're almost like their triage of hierarchy. It's like, well, if we can get more MAUs in the games, that's where the money is. They're going to make way more money than these other platforms every year annually with games like Minecraft, Call of Duty, and Candy Crush. They're going to make way more money. That's what they did. They went in and said, let's buy as much land as we can, because if we own all the land, we'll just be making money off of that. We don't have to get any of these people to switch cities and move to our city. We don't get these people to switch to our building, right? They're not trying to get tenants in their building anymore. They're just going out and buying land. So anybody that's on the land, they make money off of it. They're like, oh yeah, we don't need you to come to Xbox. That's fine. You buy Call of Duty over there. You don't need to come to our ecosystem. That's fine. You can buy that game over there. We're just going to make money off of you. It's a software strategy. It's no longer a hardware strategy. A hardware-centric strategy says, here's this thing. Do you want to play this thing? You got to come over here. Nintendo's going to do it with Zelda and Mario Kart and Metroid. And PlayStation's going to do it with The Last of Us and God of War and Horizon. And Xbox is just like, yeah, I mean, no, we don't care about that anymore. Here's a bunch of gigantic games. And what did Phil say? You can play it on Game Pass or you can buy it. We want people to have that choice. That's how you can engage with Xbox. Sorry if you answered this before, but do you think on PlayStation 5, people on PlayStation 5 will go buy an Xbox to play Black Ops 6 on Game Pass? No. Not in a measurable number, no. No one's going to go spend... if they buy a Series S, they're downgrading in hardware. So nobody's going to do that. And if they don't downgrade in hardware, no one's going to go spend $400 to $500 to avoid a $70 purchase. That doesn't make sense. I can't see a measurable amount of consumers saying, you know, that Black Ops 6 is looking amazing, and I could buy it right now for $70. Or I could go spend $500 and then sign up for Game Pass and leave all my stuff over here behind. Like, that seems backwards to me. I don't think anybody's going to do that. Yeah, they might already have an Xbox. There are people that probably have both. And sure, if you're like me, I'm probably just going to install it on my Xbox. Now, I might buy it on my PlayStation if we're trying to do some kind of a game night or something and I feel like I want to turn off crossplay or something. Maybe, but in general, yeah, if you own both, you'll probably just... But the percentage of people who own both is probably, again, not this gigantic number. Miss Archangel says, my point is that Sony is essentially going to be funding Microsoft an insane amount of money, and I'm not sure how Sony really wants to be funding their major competitor billions. Okay, you continue to operate under the, I think, wrong paradigm that they're competitors. Second, you're using the word funding, which is the wrong word to use. Sony isn't funding anything. They're not. PlayStation isn't funding anything. They're not spending any money. That you keep using terms and words that don't apply anymore. There's no competitor. There's no competitor anymore. It's like you own that and you want to publish it over here. Okay, fine. Is Sony funding Ubisoft? Is Sony funding EA? Is Sony funding these other publishers? No, that no one talks like that. That doesn't make any sense. If you publish a game on PlayStation and you make the 70 and they make the 30, they're not funding anything. They're just making money off of your property. Do you understand that you got it backwards? They're not locked in here with Xbox. Xbox is locked in here with them. It's like every time Xbox sells a game on PlayStation, they got to give 30% to Sony. You've got it backwards. Microsoft invested the R&D, the capital, the publishing, the marketing, all that money. There's going to be celebrities in the commercials. There's going to be marketing pushes during sporting events. Microsoft is footing that bill. And every single time a copy gets sold on PlayStation, PlayStation says, give me my 30%. Yeah, I tell you who's funding is that they're funding PlayStation. They're giving money to PlayStation. It's their property. They've got to market it. They've got to make sure it's in a playable state. They've got to make sure it's properly tested. All of those production and all those man hours, they're going to Call of Duty. Sony's purchases of ABK and ZeniMax titles isn't going to Microsoft. Sony's not purchasing anything. The customers are purchasing the games. The customers are purchasing the games. I'm like, hey, Xbox and Activision, I love Call of Duty. Let me buy it. And PlayStation says, hey, hang on a minute. We get to take a little off the top. All right, now you can give the money to them. Sony's not buying anything. It's the customers that are spending the money. Don't you understand? Like, if I hand $100 to Xbox, PlayStation steps in front of that $100 and says, you gotta give me 30 first. And then I'll hand the 70 to them. Can you imagine? Like, who... Wouldn't you love to be that person that gets to step in front of that purchase and say, well, we get 30% of that, because we didn't make the game. It's not our game, but we get 30% of it. Apple makes more money than Activision, Nintendo, Xbox, all the platforms combined. Apple makes more than all of them. How? The 30% scrape. The 30% scrape. Sony's always getting 30%. The difference is now Microsoft is getting 70% of the bigger player base, hence funding. Microsoft will always get more money than Sony will off Call of Duty. Oh, sure. Yeah. That's true of every single third-party game that has ever been sold on PlayStation. You're not saying anything. Like, every single third-party game that has ever been sold on PlayStation, more money has gone to the property owner than PlayStation. That's not a new reality. Like, PlayStation isn't funding anything. I'm telling you, you guys watch these podcasts and these outlets that have to flip everything upside down to be like, PlayStation's losing in this relationship. And it's like, I don't understand how they could possibly be losing. They're making money on a piece of property they spent $0 on. It's like free money, basically. There's no margin on it. The profit margin for Xbox is, yes, we get 70% of that sale, but Xbox spent a ton of money marketing it, getting branding deals, getting celebrities involved, paying for appearances, paying to show up during an NFL game. Microsoft foots all of those bills, and every dollar they make is going against that cost. And then once they hit cost, now they're making profit. PlayStation never even has to ask that question. They're not like, well, how much money did we spend on Call of Duty? It's like, no, they just get the 30%. I don't watch any outlets or podcasts. I'm just looking at what's happening. You have a very interesting way of looking at it, Miss Dark Angels. You have a very interesting way of looking at it, because one platform is literally spending no money and just making a scrape off of every sale. The other platform now has to foot the bill of one of the biggest games in the world. And instead, like, you have to remember something. Xbox used to make 30% on every Call of Duty sale. They used to make 30% on every Call of Duty sale, and they didn't have to spend any money. They weren't marketing it. They weren't publishing it. They didn't own the developer. Now, they're making a little bit more than double. They're going up from the 30% to a 70% on PlayStation. And then they make 100% on their own platform. But then they're going to let their own platform play it on Game Pass. So money lost there in general. Oh, but we're going to make more on PlayStation. Yes, but now you have to add in all of those other costs. They own quite literally one of the biggest pieces of property in the world, and like 11 studios work on it. They're footing the bill of 11 studios to produce and make Call of Duty. Yeah, nobody's coming off rude. I think this is a good debate. I think you're viewing it from a way that I just can't deal with. I've got some people to thank. I'm ignoring fan funding. I'm sorry, guys. Hang on one second here. DK Bager gifted a member. Thank you so much. That takes us to 12 members on the day. 12 members on the day, halfway to the 25. And then Chef Bobby G with a $5 super chat tip. PlayStation Xbox partnership is a win for everyone. Microsoft using a third handheld. They won't have production costs is a win. PC's a third-party console is a win. And then Insomniac says people don't see Sony as basically the IRS for Xbox. Hang on, Insomniac Black. I want to see what you said earlier. You said you did a two-parter. Insomniac said an example could be Walmart, and the other is a mom and pop shop. The mom and pop shop can sell as much as Walmart, so they start. Oh, they can't. So they start putting their products in Walmart to make more money. Walmart's not losing money by selling the competitors' products. It's just another revenue source for them. The mom and pop shop needs Walmart to stay alive. I believe that's an excellent analogy. Sony will make more money on COD sales now that they are not paying for the exclusive stuff anymore. Another astute observation. They now are no longer footing the bill for an exclusive contract, which means they're not paying for marketing. They're not having to put commercials up anywhere. They're just like, yeah, we'll sell it here. Cool, thanks. We'll throw it on the front page of our PlayStation and we'll make a ton of money. Aren't those costs already paid for by ABK? I mean, they were self-sustaining before Microsoft bought them. I don't understand this. Microsoft now has to front all the cost when ABK did this before. What? Okay, okay. All right. I'm committed. I'm committed to kindness here. Do you not understand what happens when you buy a company? Do you not understand what happens when that happens? Like, let's say I buy my neighbor's lawn mowing business. He's got a lawn mowing business and I buy it. Well, that means anytime equipment needs repaired, anytime anybody needs paid, anytime anybody needs paid a salary or gas needs to be purchased, I'm paying for that now. Don't you understand? The purchase of Activision Blizzard wasn't like, hey, here's $70 billion. We're now your owner. Keep going. You guys just keep doing your thing. It's like, no, they now own them. They have to keep them going. Why do you think they shut studios down? Why do you think they close studios? They're trying, and I told people this was going to happen. I said, listen, when the Activision Blizzard deal closes, one of the first things you're going to see is studios closing down. And I was told, no, they're not going to do that. Yes, they are, and they already have. And I got news for you. They're going to close down more. Why? What are they doing? They're lowering production cost. One of the fastest ways to move towards ROI, which is return of investment, is to shrink your production costs. If I buy my neighbor's lawn mowing business and I fire half of his staff, I now have to spend less money annually than I was going to have to spend. So I'm lowering my production costs. I'm like, no, I'm going to spend less money. I don't want to pay these. Some of these guys are mowing only 2 lawns a week anyway. There's not a lot of money in it. Let's let them go. It's too costly to keep them on. So I'm lowering my production cost. So that way, if my production cost is lower, the margin gets bigger if we continue to generate roughly the same amount of money. Like, the impact of letting go Tango in these studios, they're not going to lose that much money in profit, right? So if you lower production costs, the gap between your production costs and the revenue that you generate, that's your profit margin. That's why it's called a margin. And that margin grows if you can get production costs to go down while still maintaining the revenue that's coming in. So they shut studios down because they were like, well, yeah, that's just going to be less spend, less cost annually. I mean, didn't Sony and Embracer close studios? Well, now you're just doing whataboutisms. We're not talking about other people closing studios. The impact of an acquisition is almost every single time universally is you lay people off and you shrink, you remove redundancies. And when you do that, the company immediately becomes more valuable. Because the company's going to keep going. This happened to my dad's business. As soon as his business got purchased, they were gutting entire departments. Why? Because that lowers the amount it costs to operate that business annually, and then the valuation of the company goes up because it's like, well, this company's worth more money now. They're still generating their product. They're still generating let's just say $1 million. They're still generating $1 million a year. But now our annual cost to run the business is lower, so higher profit margin, higher valuation for the company. The company's now worth more money. A 5-spot from PWH Town says, people think since the merger that none of ABK's expenses hit Microsoft, that all the dev cost marketing are hitting the ABK books and Microsoft just receives profits. Yeah, these are just like the basic facts of like the economics of this situation, which is why I'm telling you they're not milking PlayStation. And this is related to the subject matter of doubling down on Game Pass, because I firmly believe that Microsoft is 100% going to analyze the fiscal impact of this choice to put Black Ops 6 on Game Pass. Theology degrees come with masters in business as well. Stop. Come on. When you buy a company, you buy the good and the bad. This is correct. Game Pass ain't worth the money that they charge for woke DEI nonsense. What? I think people are just going to start typing that now. Like, if they don't like a game, they're going to be like, woke DEI. Like, huh? Do you know who the bad guy is in Black Ops 6? Yo, Stone Spire with a gifted member. Thank you so much. Taking us to 13. If I know Stone Spire, let's see if he does it. I got a hunch I know what he's going to do. He wants to tempt somebody to do a 10-bomb dunker. We'll see. Yeah, he's going to do it. Somebody get ready. One of you big boys, get ready. He's going to walk this all the way to 15. I'm going to set it up for him. I know what he's doing. He's going to gift another one. He's taking us to 15. 15 out of 25. He wants somebody to slam home that 10-bomb gifted. What in the world? Oh. I was like, what just happened? Miss Archangel says, I guess the way I'm looking at it is this. If I'm Sony and I have the larger player base and my competitor now owns my biggest and most played games and is profiting off my market advantage, I don't want that. You keep using a phrase that even Xbox isn't using, and that, I feel, is the fundamental mistake in your starting position. If I was to break your argument down, and I'm going to push against the weak points, right? Try to make your argument as strong as possible, okay? So I'm pushing against a weak point in your argument. And the weak point in your argument is you keep invoking competitor. The CFO of Xbox said, we're going to be putting games on platforms that we previously considered competitors. That idea, I think, has left the building. It's like, what are they competing for then? PlayStation has a hardware-centric strategy. Xbox is not a threat to that with publishing. They're just not. I just feel you've got this so backwards. Daniel Lawson and DK Baker both gifting members and taking us to 17. They're tagging it up. They're tag teaming with Stone Spire for a single gifted train. Thank you so much. Business is two-sided. One side is not cheating the other. Sony's still their competitor. He was just being friendly. He was being friendly. So you think that he lied to would-be investors and investors at a Wells Fargo summit? Like, you can't. He was being friendly at a financial summit? That doesn't even make any sense. I got news for you. C-suite employees, they're not friendly in these environments. They're factual. They're not friendly. They're factual. He wasn't being friendly. He was talking to investors and saying, listen, you're going to see a change in strategy. We're going to start putting games on platforms that we previously considered competitors. And you're like, oh, he's just being friendly. Good Lord. No. You can't use phrases just for the fun of it in those environments. He's outlining a strategy and the viewpoint of the business so that an investor has a full picture of what they're investing in. If he comes back later and is like, well, I was just being friendly, the investors would be like, well, we'll see you in court. We'll see you in court, Mr. Friendly. Phil's terrified of Sony getting 30% of Xbox games sold on PlayStation. Why would he be terrified of that, Eugene? Oh, because of what he told the FTC? Because of what he told the FTC that PlayStation uses money made off of these games to make it hard on us? Is that what you're referring to? I mean, maybe. Guys, do me a quick favor. There's a ton of you here. If you have not yet done it, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that like button. It helps more people find the channel. Let's hit 300 likes. We're gifting members. We're having a great week. You guys are well on your way to 400 members is the goal for the week. And right now you have 311. You have 328. You're well on your way. If you hit 400, the stretch goal isn't that I just play a scary game on Friday night with my wife. Those Friday night streams are for members only, and they're a blast. She's allowed to mess with me when I play the game. And the last time we did this, you guys really loved it. It was a blast. If Sony had an issue funding Microsoft, they wouldn't make Microsoft products available on their store. Thank you for the 5 spot, John, always. That was before they got 70% of it? I mean, maybe. Eugene says, look at the quotes. Wolf Saints with 9 months. How are you, Lono? And thanks, Stone Spire. I know. This stinking air's not kicking on. I know. The mornings are the worst because it just won't kick on. Yeah, it's 72. It says air quality alert. Oh. My wife says the air quality alert doesn't matter for people who don't leave the basement. I don't know anybody who doesn't leave the basement. We're not in a... All right, get on out of here. Go do whatever. Oh, huh? Oh, in the Hitchcock episode. Oh, yeah, I forget what he said. We need to go back and watch it. It was good. It was good. It has nothing to do with 70%, Eugene says. Okay, Eugene has the quote right here. Phil Spencer says, every time we ship a game on PlayStation, Sony captures 30% of the revenue that we do on their platform, and then they use that money, among other revenue that they have, to do things to try to reduce Xbox's survival on the market. There you go. There you go. Phil Spencer said, when we ship games on PlayStation, listen to the phrases that Phil Spencer's using, by the way. To the person I've been debating, Miss Dark Angels, listen to how Phil Spencer views this. They're not milking PlayStation. He says, every time we ship a game on PlayStation, Sony captures 30% of the revenue that we do on their platform, and then they use that, amongst other revenue, to make it hard for us. And they're about to give them 30% of every game they ship over there. Because the games that they now own, they own a ton, they almost have to ship them over there. It was like Insomniac Black. It's like his Walmart example. It's like there's like PlayStation's so much larger in the market than Xbox that Xbox is like, we've got to put our property over there. If not, what are we doing? That's Satya's mentality. That's why I think Phil Spencer won the fight on Game Pass. I think he said, listen, I see the numbers. Phil's like, I get it. We got to start publishing games over there. We got to get rid of the idea of an exclusive. We'll start using phrases like every screen is an Xbox, right? We're going to maintain the Xbox brand, but we're going to create this nebulous vision of where is the brand? Well, every screen is an Xbox, right? Okay, they've kind of PR'd that up. But if you get rid of day and date on Game Pass, if Black Ops 6 doesn't come to Game Pass, what do we have? What's the brand even have anymore? We're not going to have any of our value propositions that we've championed for the last 5 years. It's a two-pillar strategy to be like, we have exclusives and they hit Game Pass, and you're getting rid of the idea of exclusives. So you can't do that and then also get rid of the idea of stuff hitting Game Pass day and date. So that's why my video, I feel like my video is like, I ended the video and was like, I'm cheering for Phil Spencer. If he's winning these fights with Microsoft, I want him to fight more. I want him to say, you got to let us have exceptions to the 18-month contract policy. We have to be able to keep people on these projects for longer than 18 months. You murdered Halo. You ruined 343 as a studio. What are we doing? If you want to start selling property on PlayStation, you can't ship stuff like Redfall and Forza Motorsport. You can't ship stuff in the state that Starfield shipped in. What are they going to spend a year fixing Starfield? You can't do that. PlayStation and Nintendo are not Game Pass. They are platforms with consumers willing to spend money. And they ain't going to spend money if you're shipping games in the state that your last batch of first-party games have shipped in. A gifted member from Sebastian Guerrero. Thank you so much for taking us to 28 members on the day. You the man. Thank you. Nobody's asking players to move from PlayStation, but I can see people buying an Xbox console to play games all the time, and PlayStation becomes a back burner console. I can't see anybody making that purchase. Do you want to know why? They haven't for the last 4 years. Listen to this. Seriously, listen to this. We discussed this yesterday in the members-only writers' room. This is a great reason to be a member. You get into the behind-the-scenes on these shows. Now, listen to this. They have abandoned the core piece of the puzzle that makes somebody buy a console. All the research points to people buy a console for the game. They're like, oh, I want that game. And Xbox has abandoned that. There is not going to be over the next couple of years, there is no game where you're like, oh, I have to go to Xbox for that. There simply isn't. That entire concept is gone. So what you're arguing then is, oh, well, people are going to come to Xbox for Game Pass. No. According to Xbox, that's not even going to happen. According to Phil Spencer, that's not going to happen. He quite literally said, our console Game Pass subscribers have plateaued. We see opportunities for growth in the PC market. And he went on to say in another interview that they see opportunities for Game Pass to grow in the Asian or Japanese PC market. But they've admitted, they're like, no, Game Pass console has plateaued, and all reports are showing subservices plateauing. So that's not going to bring people over. No one's going to say, well, I'm going to buy a $500 piece of plastic so that I can pay for a subscription for games. That $500 can buy them a ridiculous amount of games that are coming to PlayStation anyway. No, nobody's going to spend extra on a box unless they feel like a very, very strong, compelling reason to, and Xbox has removed that. You know, Xbox remove that as a value proposition. There is no longer a push to say, if you want to play this title, we're hearing that like Halo Combat Evolved is being considered for PlayStation 5. Like, you understand what that means to the brand, to the console itself? That's it. Like, it's like, well, then there's nothing left. If you move Halo, if Master Chief can end up on PlayStation, then the idea of like, oh, I need to go buy an Xbox, that's not a thing somebody's going to say. This is why I think all internal reports, all of the insiders, all the people that have Xbox contacts are indicating that the next piece of hardware from Xbox will not be a traditional console. It'll be more like a hybrid PC and a handheld. Well, why would they do that? Because that's more of a tech offer, a feature offer. You're not offering a platform that has games that if you want these games, you got to come here. You're saying, oh, we're going to sell our tech on features. Once you're selling on features, you're no longer selling on property. If you start selling, a PC hybrid or a handheld, you're selling that person a feature. You're not selling them, oh, this is a platform that has property that you're going to want. Like when Nintendo is like, yeah, you want to play Mario? You want to play this? You got to come here. Gears will probably be multiplat. Everybody ripped me up one side and down the other when I said what I said about Starfield a year ago, potentially being a timed exclusive. And then when I said earlier this year that it was coming. But do you honestly feel like anything is safe at this point? Nothing is safe. It's so clear. All the murmurings, all the whisperings, all the rumors, it's like Microsoft is basically considering everything. No Halo, no Gears. Why? I want you to argue right now. Why would Xbox continue to make anything exclusive? What's the purpose? Why would they do it? Why would they limit the reach of a piece of property? Why? I can't think of a reason. If I try to come up with a really good argument, I can't think of one. There's no argument for it anymore. They don't, that's not, their strategy has so firmly shifted away from that. Yeah, I heard that this comes from Zuby, but he's claiming this is from, did he say from Tom Warren? Yeah, it's a rumor on PlayStation. I saw another tweet, not from Zuby Tech. Somebody else tweeted, and they cited Tom Warren. More Game Pass subs? No. Phil Spencer told the Brazilian regulators that like the annual revenue from Game Pass will probably never exceed 15%. I don't think that you would make major decisions like that. And wouldn't you potentially get more Game Pass subscribers anyway if the next Gears hits Game Pass day and date and is also sold on PlayStation? Doesn't that still give you the opportunity to get more Game Pass subscribers? More console sales? They have not shown that that's a priority. That's not a business priority. They're not, that's not, listen to Satya and all the FTC documents. That just isn't something that they're interested in anymore. They want to have, like, he wants a controller. He wants a cloud access point. He's not trying to sell consoles. He's trying to sell people software. He's trying to sell people services. He's not trying to sell people hardware. I don't really care about exclusives going to PlayStation. I'm actually completely fine with that. I see the Xbox having value only going up as they get more games on a sub. I mean, I can't argue against that from like a mathematical perspective. The value of Game Pass only goes up the more big titles you put on it. That is true. I think that is true. The question is not, does the value keep going up? The question is the value compelling enough to move consumers? And I don't think that it is. I don't think that it is, because it would have worked. It would have been a landslide victory. It would have been a joke. Like, they've been dumping stuff on Game Pass for years, and it hasn't helped. They've lost. But Phil Spencer said it. We're not going to out console Sony. We're not in the business of doing that. Like, he basically told people, it was like, that's not what we're in the business for. And what did he say? What did he say in the IGN interview? His commitment to Xbox console owners was what? What was his commitment? That you can buy or subscribe to the games. And then the next thing out of his mouth was, you're going to see more of our property on other platforms. And then he pushed back on the notion that, like, oh, but the messaging hasn't been consistent. He's like, we've been saying for a very long time, when everybody plays, everybody wins. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Vault Edition is currently the most pre-ordered item on the PlayStation Store. The cross-gen bundle is the top 10 as well. Oh, yeah. As soon as I turned on my PlayStation and I saw the Black Ops 6 advertisement, I said, oh, that thing's probably red hot right now. Everybody's clicking on it. Black Ops pulls in the Call of Duty community. It pulls. It's a big, big name. It's, I would say, potentially bigger and more popular than Modern Warfare. Like, if you think within the history of Call of Duty, like Black Ops 1 and 2, coming out with a Black Ops game, at the quality and the caliber that we saw in the trailer, that game's going to crush. It's going to crush. It may become their most successful Call of Duty as far as like quantity of sales to date. Quantity of players will probably be the highest ever because of the injection of Game Pass subscribers as well. It's near top in Steam also. Yeah, I think Black Ops 6 is going to be insanely commercially successful. Like, I think it's going to break a ton of records, personally. I'm not arguing for Xbox to out-console PlayStation, but I can see Xbox slowly grabbing the player's attention more than Sony might be able to. Microsoft has a lot more replayable games currently. Well, here's another problem with your prediction. Half of the people who play Call of Duty, who buy Call of Duty, half the people who buy Call of Duty buy it on PlayStation. Half of the people currently playing Call of Duty on PlayStation are playing on a PlayStation 4. So there's a huge reticent attitude there to upgrade, right? So if we're looking at that consumer base and thinking, well, they might come over. No, I don't think so. You're asking them to leave behind their library, their ecosystem, their friends list. They're going to leave all that behind for what? for a game they can buy on PlayStation. Like, I don't see a customer saying that. I don't see a customer saying, I'm going to completely switch platforms so that I can not buy a game. That's not, they're going to be like, well, I keep all my stuff. I'll buy this PlayStation and then I'll buy the new game. That just, I don't see that being a compelling offer. Listen, if Xbox manages to turn the tide on hardware, I will be shocked. It'll be shocking because they have not prioritized it. Random question, what does Lono stand for? There is a movie with Dennis Leary in it called Suicide Kings, and his name in the movie is Lono. And when I was in high school, this would be 25 years ago, my friend told me that I reminded him of Dennis Leary because I would get really animated and I would go on these rants. I know that's hard to believe. I know I don't really do that now. I'm pretty calm and pretty reserved. I'm being sarcastic, obviously. But he's like, you remind me of Dennis Leary. So I watched a bunch of his stand-up, and then I watched Suicide Kings, and I thought the name Lono was super dope. And so back then when I was playing like Quake 3, that became my handle. So I've just been Lono ever since. That's a good point. So with players still being on PlayStation 4, would it be more attractive to buy a Series S with Game Pass, have access to 8+ games, like a value of 600 games? No, because you're trying to propose a value that doesn't communicate to them. All of the stats surrounding Call of Duty players is that that's the game they primarily play. So I don't think, hey, look at all these games on Game Pass. I don't think that's compelling to them. I think they just want the next Call of Duty and they want to be able to play with their buds. And I think that's where PlayStation absolutely won. Like, PlayStation absolutely won. Like, that's what motivates people to buy the next Call of Duty or to stay where they are. It's like, I'm going to buy the next Call of Duty and I'm going to play with my buds. And you'd be like, well, crossplay. You're trying to get them to switch, and trying to get a consumer to switch is really difficult. Whenever I worked for AT&T, we would try to get people to switch their TV providers. And I could throw an insane amount of rebates at them, an insane amount of sales, all the movie channels. And you know what they would always do? I'm going to think about it. I like what we got now. It was like trying to pull a tooth out of their mouth. It was like, I would throw every deal I had at these people, and I couldn't get them to switch. Right? You're asking consumers to switch, not switch, but own both. Well, no, we're talking about people that are currently still on PlayStation 4. You're not. So now you're saying that they're going to buy an Xbox Series S for Game Pass so that they can play Call of Duty and then what, stay on their PlayStation 4 and not upgrade to PlayStation 5? I just don't think so. No. I do not think so. Telemarketing? No, I worked in a retail store. The thinking is for a customer to switch off an incumbent, to the new product or service, it has to be twice as good. Inertia is a B. Right. It's very, very hard to get people to move. It really, really is. Very difficult. Not just COD. Well, we've been talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Game Pass. Like, that's the largest. Listen, I think we might see a new record for Game Pass subscribers in a single day when Black Ops 6 launches. I mean it. You're going to have a bunch of Game Pass core people upgrade. You're going to have a bunch of new people pick up Xbox Game Pass console as well as Ultimate. The current record of brand new Game Pass subscribers is held by Starfield. I think Black Ops 6 is going to blow that out of the water. I do. I think they're going to get a ton of new people to sign up. I don't think you're going to get a measurable amount of PlayStation people to switch. I just think it's too difficult to get people to switch. I've been in this industry and other industries long enough to know consumers are very, very stubborn to switch. They like what's familiar. Have you ever gone to a website and they change their layout, or you go to the grocery store and they change their layout? You are immediately irritated. You're like, where's the bread? Like, you're like, what is going on? Where's my button that I always push when I open this app? Like, people don't like that. Because especially in a leisure environment, they want it to be comfortable. They want it to be familiar. And we see this with cell phones and how people won't switch from their Android to iPhone, and they won't switch from their iPhone to Android. It's difficult to get people to switch. And I don't think that Microsoft and Xbox are interested in what you're even saying. They're not pushing it. Listen to what Phil Spencer said. Listen to what they're saying. Phil Spencer kicked off the Xbox Game Showcase and said Black Ops 6 is going to hit every platform at the same time with the same content and the same seasons and the same DLC, and even the beta dates are hitting everywhere at the exact same time. He's giving you zero reason to switch. Zero. It hitting Game Pass is not a reason to switch ecosystems and switch consoles. It just isn't. He spent more time talking about how every platform will get an equal version of this, the same time, the same dates, and then he's like, and it's the first time Call of Duty's ever going to hit Game Pass day one. So PlayStation users aren't going to say, we're getting the exact same game, beta dates are the same, DLCs and seasons are the same. Oh, but I could avoid buying the game and go subscribe to Game Pass. I don't think that's a compelling offer to switch. I just don't think so. Microsoft and Xbox aren't even trying to convince people to do that. They're not. They're not. If they're not trying to convince people to do it, I don't think people will convince themselves to do it in great quantities. I just don't think so. I don't see it. People like to go with Halo's being considered for PlayStation. That could mean anything. Someone could have been in a meeting and casually said, what if we put Halo on PlayStation? And someone walked by and heard it. I mean, Will, when this many things are happening that everybody... I want you to just track with me, Will. When the CFO said what he said last year, everybody hand waved. And Phil Spencer tried to play it down. And then we find out there were frosted glass rooms and secretive meetings and games were being brought and nobody could know about it. Right? And Phil dodges the question entirely. January hits and the rumors start swirling. And guys like me that I'm like, I got sources telling me that even Starfield's coming. And I get attacked. I get called every name in the book. And then all that denial, calling it hopium and all of that. And then games are coming. And then what happened? Oh, it's just 4 games, guys. It's just 4 games. What did Phil sit down and say to IGN? Oh, did I say 4 games? No, you're going to see more games on other platforms. Like, do you see the trajectory and how denial has never been the right approach here? It's like, no, this is all fair game. It's probably all coming. I just don't... It wasn't like, hey... You guys ever think we could put Halo over there? And someone like runs to their sources and is like, Halo's being considered for PlayStation. Put it on the headline, Charlie. Like, no. I'm telling you, nothing is safe. They've shifted. Satya is at the table now for these discussions, metaphorically. Satya Nadella is like, no, I don't want exclusives. I don't like exclusives. Exclusives don't serve our aims anymore. That idea is gone. They didn't even utter the word exclusive during their showcase. Why would they suddenly try to bring that back out into the forefront? Like earlier when I said, somebody argue right now why they would do an exclusive. And people were like, well, they could get more Game Pass subscribers. Okay, what else you got? Like, they literally didn't say the word exclusive once in their entire showcase. That idea is gone. You can't tell the public that every screen is an Xbox and then say, this is an Xbox exclusive. It doesn't make any sense. And the last Scotsman with a 10 bomb takes us to 28 members on the day. Thank you so much. I now owe you guys 5 members. Thank you so much. The last Scotsman. Lono, have you ever discussed DLC and microtransaction sales for Game Pass games? Usually games in Game Pass don't have the DLC included. This is true. Yeah, first, better, or best. Yeah. Tim Stewart's verbiage is ringing true. What's good, Ice Queen? How are you? They didn't say exclusive last year at the showcase either. Yep. Starfield was like the last game, I think, for them to ever utter the word exclusive at all. And since then, it's not been said once. They just don't say the word anymore. It's a dead idea. It's dead. There's no such thing. Every screen is an Xbox. Sweet. This is an Xbox exclusive. What the frick does that mean? If every screen is an Xbox, where is it exclusive to? Well, it's exclusive to our consoles and PC. For a little while, maybe. Like, there's just no reason to muddying the waters anymore. Like, an exclusive, it doesn't even line up with how they talk about things. They don't talk about their games or their marketing or their platform. None of that ever. They don't utter the word anymore. It's gone. It's a fossil. They're going to put PlayStation for full price. How many people are going to spend $300 on 4 games? Here's another mistake that you're making, Miss Dark Angels. Here's another mistake that you're making. This is a luxury market, and the financial research shows that the average household income, this could be more than one person working, but the average household income is 6 figures that pays into the gaming industry. People that are making $100,000 annually or higher aren't considering the things that you're considering. They're not penny pitching their luxuries. They're not. They're like, well, I don't know. No, they're like, swipe the credit card. Like, no shade to people below that level of income, but I want you to imagine right now, let's say you hear $100,000 annually and you're like, oh, that would be a dream. That would change my life. I want you to imagine the paradigm shift in your mind with respect to video games if you were suddenly at that higher level of income than you are now. What would that do to you? It would change your outlook. You wouldn't be like, oh, I don't know. I can only buy one game right now, and I really had to scrape. God love you. That's not a fun place to be, where like your leisure and your hobby is essentially under threat. You're like, I got to scrape just to buy one game. So Game Pass is amazing for you, or the Series S was the best deal for you at the time. Like, I love people like that, but you have to consider if you suddenly landed a dream job and you were pulling $120,000 a year, $120,000 a year, you're pulling that income home. It would change the way you view your luxury and your leisure purchases. You would be like, well, I'm just going to buy that game. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to get a controller. I'm going to get headphones. Like, you would start to treat those expenses very differently. And the average person, the average household that's spending into gaming is 6 figures and up. Like, that right there shows you that no one's going to balk at being like, well, do I buy Call of Duty for $70 or do I buy an Xbox for $400 or $500, get on Game Pass, and then I'll start to save money in, like, how many years is that, by the way? Okay, so let's say you buy a $500 console and you sign up for Ultimate, $16 a month, $16 a month times the entire year. So you're $192. So your first year alone, you're spending close to $700. You'd have to buy 10 Call of Duties to get to that. Oh, and by the way, you're paying for Game Pass every year. You think people are going to crunch that number and switch teams? They're going to crunch those numbers and switch teams or add Xbox? Yeah, I tell you what I want to do. I want to spend $700 this year so that I can get Game Pass on a subservice. I want to avoid a $70 purchase, so I'm going to spend $700 to avoid that $70 purchase. What? No one's doing that. No one's going to do that in great quantities. Fiction with a $5 super chat tip says, I've been watching for almost 2 years now on Spotify. This is my first time on YouTube. I just want to say I'm a big fan and love your show. God bless. That's very kind, Fiction. And a $2 super chat from Perfect Image says, how Game Pass is losing to and PlayStation Plus is winning. I'm not sure what you're asking. Game Pass isn't for low income. Low income buys used and on sale. They don't buy subs. Do you have actual data to prove your salary projection? It sounds made up. So, are you talking to me, Justin Kidder? You're asking me about the salary thing? That was an actual report. I don't. If you've been watching for a long time, you have a gold badge. You think I just make stuff up? When have I ever just made something up? I always cite reports or data or information that I have seen that we could go grab and prove. Like this morning when somebody was like, well, I never saw those emails to ZeniMax. And I was like, give me 5 seconds. And I pulled up the article. Like, I don't do that. I don't state something that's from a report or from some research thing. I don't do that. I was just pulling stuff out of a hat. Yeah, I make up words and idioms, but I don't make up data points. If you're talking to me, we can find the data. We can find the article. I remember when Eugene put it in the Discord, I was like, well, that kind of answers the question. The average person's not approaching this from a how much money can I save reality. They're not like, I want to spend as little as possible. Now, they're not going to spend more than they have to. No one's going to say, well, I want to avoid spending 70, so I'm going to spend 500. Like, I don't see people making that leap. I disagree. Low, middle, and high income buy games. That's why we have day one buyers at 70. Then gamers quickly go to a sale and half off. You're misunderstanding what I was saying. I'm not saying that there are not people in low and middle. I'm saying the vast majority of the people. The word majority implies the most. It doesn't mean all. The biggest chunk of people who pay into the gaming market are at 6 figures and higher on their annual income as a household. Households that bring in 6 figures annually are not like worried about a $70 gaming purchase if they consider themselves a gamer. GameIndustry.biz said subscribers to Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and Switch Online tend to have a higher income level, over 100,000, compared to non-subscribers, suggesting that although value and saving money is a big motivation, it isn't the biggest reason why most gamers subscribe. Oh, it's actually information about subscribing. So that right there shows you, like, you're not going to get somebody to switch teams because they're like, oh, I can subscribe and not buy Call of Duty. Like, that's not going to motivate people at that income threshold. They're buying the subservice same way they buy all their other subservices. So they're just going to stay where they are. I don't think you're going to convince somebody at that level of income who freely subscribes to things like PlayStation Plus to be like, well, I'm going to switch teams so I can get Call of Duty for free. It's such an inconsequential purchase at that point. It's $70. Oh, there's more? Oh, that's just subs. Okay, there are more data points. I think this is a good debate. Do you want to know why I think this is a good debate? Because I think Microsoft is going to analyze this decision. I don't know if this is set in stone. Like, my video and this video are saying they're all in on Game Pass. They're doubling down on Game Pass. Because I told Hilly the other day, I said, I don't think they're doubling down. I think they're maintaining. But then when we heard the Treyarch guys talk, I was like, no, I think I'm wrong. I think they are doubling down. I think Phil Spencer went to bat and said, we have got to maintain this. We've got to really push this. If you lose this value proposition, you lose Xbox. And I think Microsoft probably said, okay, let's see how it goes. And they're going to analyze the decision fiscally. And when you let 25 million people not purchase the highest selling game of the year, I would not want to be on the other end of that conversation. I wouldn't. I would not want to be on the other side of the table trying to explain to Satya why we need to keep doing this. I wouldn't want to be that guy. Because I got to imagine Satya and Microsoft are going to be saying, explain to me again why we let 25 million people not buy the highest selling game of 2024. I need you to explain that to me again, why we did this. Like, you got to run that one by me. Again, I'm telling you, I like that this happened because I think it shows that Phil Spencer's in there fighting for the soul of Xbox. And I want him to win more of those fights because I've always said I think Microsoft is the problem. I think Microsoft is antithetical to the creative process of games. I think they're bad for games. I almost canceled my Game Pass sub 2 months ago, decided to keep and finally play Hi-Fi Rush. What a great game. Since then, started Ghostwire Tokyo and Evil Within 2. Tango was a great studio. Yeah, I'm working my way through Hi-Fi Rush right now. I didn't think I was gonna like it because whenever I would help my daughter with it, the rhythm aspect of it turned me off. But when you go through it and you get the different abilities over time, it makes more sense to you. Like, I would just jump in and try to help her randomly, and I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing, because she's like fighting a boss, 30% through the game, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So starting from the beginning, I have a greater appreciation for how they built that game. It's really fun. Don't you think they would have run metrics and simulations before doubling down? That seems unlikely. Well, for sure, Peachy Creamy. But I also think that's probably part of the discussion. They're probably saying, listen, I would imagine there's a threshold somewhere where Microsoft wins the argument. Right? There's a threshold where they say, nope, no, we're not doing this again. We tried your way, and all of the projections said this was going to happen, and it's worse. It's worse. The calculable loss here is too great. You're going to have C-suite, board members, shareholders saying, can you explain to us why you're doing this? Can you explain that to us? They're going to be able to argue that they lost money. Like, that's going to be a difficult conversation, I think, to have. To say, well, yeah, you shareholders lost potential gains. There were potential gains that you didn't get because we did this. Can you justify that from a business perspective? Confidence in the brand, maybe. It would have really hurt, the future of Xbox in the marketplace as a trustable brand. And now we can come up with value proposition and property and we can be trusted. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of angles there that I like I said, I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that conversation. They were allowed to leverage exclusives to get subs, to get revenue, and it didn't work, says Zubair. AOZ says, not sure why so many people care about what console other people choose. It sounds like self-rationalization as to why their console isn't going to go out of business. David says, can't believe I'm saying this, but you deserve my respect for being positive about the Xbox showcase. It was a perfect showcase. Game Pass is looking good. Yeah. My only complaint about the showcase is one that I'm seeing even from some of the Xbox guys. They're like, could we get some release dates here? Like, why don't we have release dates for Indiana Jones and Avowed? It doesn't make sense. Now, somebody told me that there were people that had hands-on with Stalker 2, and it's a little rough. And I'm like, well, that's the only one with the freaking release date. Why I keep saying 25 million with no data? It's the most recent count that we have. What would you like me to do? Is there an imaginary number that you want me to say? That's the number that we have. Now, Sarah Bond said 34 million, but that includes Game Pass Core. Those people can't, that extra 9 to 10 million people, they can't get Black Ops 6 Day 1. They'd have to upgrade. So I don't count them. I've been saying 25 million because that's roughly the number of people that we know that are on Game Pass since the last count that we were given. Didn't Red Lobster just go bankrupt because of Endless Shrimp? A deal where you can pay very little that you would normally have to pay for, just watching all those sales walk out the door. That's right. Value can be, too much value given to the customer can be destructive. It can. We were doing that at a local, there was a local place, it was a chain. The chain was called Salsaritas, and they had a night where kids would eat free. So a bunch of us families with like multiple kiddos, we would go. Now, we didn't have kids at the time, but we were friends that had kids, and that's a bargain. Kids eat free. They also had BOGO coupons that they would put in the paper. So people were showing up, and like a family of 4 would buy one entree. They'd buy the entree, they would BOGO, and so the spouse would get a free meal, and then the kids would eat free. They would buy one entree. And a lot of these families would just get water because they're kids. They're not going to give their 7-year-old soda. They shut that down after like the 3rd time that we did it. Why? Because somebody ran a report for Thursday nights and they were like, "What is going on? You guys aren't generating any revenue. You're selling like one entree per family. What's happening? What's going on?" They shut it down. On Kids Eat Free night, they said you can't use coupons. They basically said, you can't do that. You're costing us too much money. Now, if they wouldn't have put a stop to it, it would have been ridiculous. It would have been like, oh my gosh, every Thursday night they'd have been stuffed to the rafters with families, and every family's buying like 1, maybe 2 entrees, depending on how big the family is. Imagine a family of 6, and it's 4 kids, and it's just like, oh yeah, they bought 2, maybe 3 entrees for a family of 6. Family of 4 bought 1 entree. Like, what? It's ridiculous. The endless shrimp thing cost the company $20 million, apparently. Jeepers. I think something that's gotten lost in this discussion over the years is that the reason Game Pass has been sustainable is because Microsoft foots the bill. Seriously. You wouldn't see Nintendo or PlayStation doing this because they couldn't foot the bill. They couldn't pay all those third-party developers and publishers to throw their games on Game Pass and then cannibalize sales. Limitless Pajama with a 20 bomb takes us to 48, leaping up to the next milestone out of nowhere. This white badge new member's been going crazy with the gifteds. Unbelievable. If you get a gifted member from Limitless Pajama, make sure and say thank you. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. A 10 spot from Will Lewis says, a $10 super chat says, that was my argument with the Xbox Showcase. You've had games that were advertised in the Dev Direct in January for 2024 release and still no date. Also, still waiting to hear anything on Towerborn. Well, I saw somebody say they're hearing that like Xbox had more to show and they're saving some of it for Gamescom. Apparently Gamescom is going to be pretty big for them as well. Which makes sense. They have so much property. They should be able to show up to every conference, every event, and have something. Whether it's the Game Awards or Gamescom or Summer Game Fest or a Dev Direct or a showcase. Xbox should always be able to swing a big bat. So I'm with you. Where in the heck's Towerborn? Where's 33 Immortals? Those are apparently coming out this year, and they're not at your annual showcase, and you don't have release dates for Indiana Jones and Avowed? Like, what are y'all doing? Phil has reported that Game Pass is profitable. Why is this narrative that it's not making money? They've never shown us the numbers. He says it's profitable for us. He's always been very careful in how he's talked about it. They've never shown the numbers and said, here's what we spend annually to put games on Game Pass. Here's what we spend annually on our own games that hit Game Pass. Here's the number of sales that we don't get. And, oh yeah, here's the margins on this. They've never once shown us that. They just say, well, it's profitable for us. Oh, okay. What does that mean? And 2 gifted members from Alex takes us to 50. Alex single walks us all the way there. Thank you so much, sir. Lone Wolf said, I said this yesterday regarding the release dates. I think Xbox's new pattern is 3 to 4 months. Yeah, you kept trying to get that on my radar, Lone Wolf. You said, well, they gave a release date for this game when it was 4 months away. Oh, okay. Then why did Stalker have a September release date before all the rest of these? That doesn't line up with what you're saying. Stalker got delayed and then gave us a release date well before 4 months. Stalker gave us a release date earlier in the year, did they not? They were like, yeah, we're not going to make it. They're not first party. Okay, that's fair pushback. They're not first party. So, okay, so your theory is that they're going to start going first party and they're going to tell you the release date around 4 months beforehand, which would mean that we will hear about, we'll get an Indiana Jones release date, what, in August, and then potentially then we're hearing that Avowed is like November, so like July for Avowed. Calling PlayStation Direct sales high margin implies to me that low margin is also a term they use, and I assume that's how they refer to Game Pass, as low margin, but low margin is not losing money. Yeah, it just isn't generating very much. If it's profitable, where are the amortization numbers for ABK in contrast to the Game Pass and game sales yields and the ROI data? Yeah, we don't have any of that. You can't like say, oh no, Game Pass is profitable because Phil said so. Show me on paper. Phil quite literally can't claim it's profitable, and do you want to know why? Out of his own mouth. He said in an email that they can't measure the value of a game that comes to Game Pass. He's like, we don't have a spreadsheet for that. He quite literally admits to a guy like, we don't know. He said it's a mix of things. You remember that email? Like, he was like, yeah, we don't know. We don't have a spreadsheet for that. You want them to break down ROI data to the consumer to prove profitability? It makes no sense. No, I think they should do it to their shareholders. Because I think shareholders have a right to see that information. You want to invest? Show me that this is working. Show me the profitability of this. You've made this central to the brand. You just took one of the biggest pieces of property in the world and you put it on Game Pass. Show me. What in the world? As a shareholder, you better believe they're going to want to know. They're going to want to know. Well, did that work? How much did it generate? How much revenue? How much profit did we get from that? You can't keep saying, oh, it's fine, it's profitable. You can keep hand-waving. You can't hand-wave your shareholders. He did claim it, though, so why are we jumping to he's lying? Have they ever broken down the profitability of Game Pass to shareholders? Have they ever done that? Do we have any actual documentation of the profitability of Game Pass? Or do we have a passing remark about how it's profitable for us? Like, we don't have concrete data. And he said in an email they can't even measure, they don't even have a tool or a measurement spectrum to say, this was the impact of this game. This is what this game generated for us. This is the profit margin on this game in tandem with landing on Game Pass. He told the guy, we don't know. He's like, it's a combination of things. So more than likely, they have some kind of a figure where they say, well, yes, we're spending more to put games on Game Pass than we're actually getting out of new subscribers every year, but we're getting X number of login time, X number of monthly and daily active users. It's probably this whole amalgamation of things to say, we view this as profitable for our aims. That doesn't mean it as its own entity. It's like, here's the cost of Game Pass, here's the revenue generation of Game Pass, here's the profit margin. It's not that clean cut. Out of Phil Spencer's own mouth, it's not that clean cut. We are consumers. We don't have access to all the information they tell their shareholders. So it could be true that it is profitable. Like I said, I think it's kind of what I just outlined. It's this big amalgamation of things to say, as it stands right now, this is profitable for our aims. Do you want to know why it's changing? Because it isn't. Microsoft and Satya write a $70 billion check, and what's the first thing to change? The idea of an exclusive. Gone. Why? Because they're like, no, this isn't working. You can't spend that kind of capital and just shove everything on Game Pass. We got to sell this property. We got to make our money back. Everything changed when they bought ABK. And I think the last man standing is Game Pass. It's like, Phil's like, you can't take this from us. You take day one Game Pass from us, and the brand is finished. No one will trust us ever again. We're already dealing with trust issues as we take exclusives to other platforms, as we close down a studio like Tango. We're already dealing with brand and consumer trust issues. You gotta let us keep Game Pass. They changed one of the core tenets of their business, and you're like, yeah, but Game Pass is profitable. But according to what? What do we even see to tell us that it's profitable? They don't hide the number because it's successful. Every other company that hits a milestone or it's successful, they show its consumers the numbers, or they show the shareholders the numbers, or when something's growing, they continually track those numbers and let you know those numbers. Both PlayStation and Xbox stopped sharing their subscriber numbers because once they plateau, you don't want to bring focus to that. You know, it's not growing. Like, you don't bring focus to that. You just start raising the price. if somebody asked this above, if it's working so well, why change the approach? Yeah, if shoring up exclusives on Game Pass is working so well, if it's doing such a bang up job, why are they shifting away from that? One of the core tenets of Game Pass up to now has been, we got exclusives, play them day one on Game Pass. When Phil Spencer was explaining the ZeniMax acquisition, he quite literally said, this is to deliver more great exclusives where Game Pass exists. That's gone. If that strategy worked so well, why did they completely change the approach to say, well, we're going to put games everywhere, and you now have the option to subscribe or buy, and oh yeah, we feel that when more people play, that's better. When everybody plays, we all win. Well, that's a complete change in how they're approaching this. But Game Pass is profitable and successful and tenable and sustainable, and yet they changed one of the fundamental aspects of Game Pass. Two Spot from Fiction says, did you hear about the potential remake of Halo? Yes. I found what you're referencing. Hardware sales, 40%, 100K, 31% under 50K, rest is in between. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Solaire. Because they said it's profitable. I don't understand what the contention is here. Why would they double down on it if it wasn't profitable? Why would they put COD on it if it wasn't profitable? There could be other reasons to put Call of Duty on Game Pass. I don't think they put Call of Duty on Game Pass because they view that as a profitable decision. It's not. It's a brand trust issue. I don't think they're putting Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on Game Pass because they're like, we're going to make a ton of money by doing this. I think they're quite literally doing it because there wouldn't be a value proposition for the brand anymore. But like, what in the world are you guys doing? You've completely eradicated the idea of exclusives, and your biggest piece of property isn't hitting Game Pass? What the frick would I even be on your platform for? Why would I even have Game Pass? It would be a complete erosion of the value of the brand. You can't, there's no math that would say putting Black Ops 6 on Game Pass is going to be a profitable decision. It will lead to less sales. Costco doesn't sell chickens for $5 because it's profitable. Right. Like, not every decision, not every line item is profitable. It's attached to an entire thing that they feel will be profitable, which is a generic word. Have you ever seen them use the word to shareholders? Have you ever seen them sit down in a shareholders earnings call or report to shareholders? Have they ever once argued where they would be legally liable and said Game Pass is a profitable entity? Have they ever done that? Have they ever spelled out the numbers? No. Why do you think they haven't done that? If Game Pass was so profitable and so well thought out and doing so well, number one, why would they change the fundamentals of the business strategy as it pertains to exclusives? And secondly, why wouldn't they have that somewhere to the shareholders? Why wouldn't you explain it to them? Because that's not as it's designed. It's not designed to be this massive profit-generating machine. It's an MAU generator. It's like we got to get users. We got to get people in here. Yeah, it's a loss leader. It's like it's quite literally designed to lose money in the hopes that you get MAUs. You got to get all these people in your ecosystem, and then the hope would be you lose money in order, well, they'll stay. You're getting people to basically not build a library. So since they're not building a library, it's going to be really hard to leave Game Pass. Like if you've not been buying games for the last 4 or 5 years because you've been living high on the hog on Game Pass, you don't have a library. You have Game Pass. How's the exclusives things changing? So when Phil Spencer says the ZeniMax acquisition is about delivering great exclusives to where Game Pass exists, and that's no longer happening. They're now publishing games anywhere they can, and you can also get the game on Game Pass. That is a fundamental change to the strategy. Instead of saying, yeah, we bought these companies to deliver more great exclusives to you and to Game Pass, it's now, well, no, we bought all this property. We're going to publish it everywhere. We want everybody to be able to buy it, and then you can also get it on Game Pass. One of the core pillars of what Phil Spencer said is disappeared. It's gone. It's like, I don't see how people don't see that. It's like, yeah, that's a fundamental aspect of how he defended the ZeniMax acquisition. He quite literally sold this as an idea, and he goes into ZeniMax in 2021 and says everything's an exclusive going forward, to the point that the CFO and Matt Booty have a conversation about it. It's like, oh my gosh, everything? Okay. Game Pass won't have any exclusives? I think long term, no. I think that's a dead idea. I think that's just a dead idea. I just don't think they're interested in that. There'll be games that come out first. I think you'll get like timed exclusives, like Stalker 2 as an example. Stalker 2 will hit 6 months later. I believe it's going to be on the other platforms. Well, it'll be on, PlayStation. Phil also said he can't remember saying that. He said he can't remember saying that? There's literal clips of him saying that. You can't be serious, Paul. Does he not remember saying just 4 games? Does he not remember saying not every game will hit PC day and date? Does he remember that, saying those things? Does he remember saying that they're going to do VR? Does he remember those things? Because he said those things too. He doesn't remember saying that? There's footage of him sitting down and saying it. He's wearing a Skyrim shirt. It's also verifiable evidence in regulatory procedures that this was stated. He said this. Oh, if you're talking about what he said to ZeniMax, about ZeniMax games being exclusive, he says he can't remember saying it. Paul, somebody wrote gullible on your ceiling. When you're done looking at your ceiling, you honestly think that when he says that, that's such a legal answer. I don't remember saying that. Did he say that he didn't say it? Did he say that he didn't say it? No, he says, I don't remember saying that. By the way, where does he say he doesn't remember saying that? Where did he say, I don't remember saying that to ZeniMax? Where did he claim this? Because apparently then Matt Booty is an idiot, and so is the CFO, because they're, as a matter of record, they're like, yeah, he said it. He went in and said all games are exclusive. So Matt Booty apparently has a hearing problem. It's like quite literally a matter of verifiable record that the man went in and said everything is exclusive. Well, I don't remember saying that. That's a real sneaky way to get out of like lying. I don't remember saying that. Well, you did. You did say it. Whether or not you remember is superfluous to the discussion. Your ability to recollect saying it doesn't really matter. It's right here in the emails. You said it. Like, Will Lewis, did you see my super chat earlier? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss it? Hang on. A $5 super chat from Will says, while not always agreeing with you, Lono, I do respect your honest opinions and enjoy talking and discussing with your chat. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that very, very much. This has been a very lively discussion, and it's now around the time that I go to members. And I'll make you a deal. I'll schedule members. And if you guys can double this and make this hit 100, I'll match. I'll just drop a 50 bomb. I'll only owe you 20. If we hit 100 members, I owe you 20. But if you guys can scramble and make this hit 50, I'll drop a 50 bomb. Let's go crazy. Let's get a bunch of people in here. Let's get some more members. Let's get these people in the writer's room. I love the different perspectives. I love the debate and the discussion today. Nobody got nasty. Nobody name called. Nobody was disrespectful. This is literally what we do Monday through Friday on this channel. And if you don't agree with me, fine. That's not a requirement here. As you've seen, plenty of people have gone back and forth with me for the last 2 hours. To be fair, I did ask a guy if he wanted a juice box. Well, he was I think that guy was just trolling. Trolls don't count. I'm talking about the people that actually were discussing and disagreeing. Like, those are the people that I care about. And Gavin Hillick says, it all starts with 1, and he bumps the line to 51. There it is. Thank you so much, Gavin. Lono's a poo-poo head. How much does Xbox stand to make? from Call of Duty Mobile and Candy Crush? I don't know. Why are you asking about that? And Brandon with a 10 bomb says, "Come on, boys, let's get this. Let's have this random mad dash to 100 members. Let's get it done. You guys are the best. I've been doing these gauntlets. I've been throwing them down. I'm like, come on, let's have a mad dash, and then I'll gift more members than I owe you. Let's celebrate." And then I'll schedule writers. But a 20 bomb from British. Somebody with a white badge doing 20 members. That's absolutely insane. Seeing people with brand new memberships dropping 20 bombs on the chat. What is happening? This community is crazy. Behemoth with a 10 bomb takes us to 91. Unbelievable. And Alex does it. He takes us to 101. You guys blasted all the way through it. Unbelievable. An agent of chaos for you and an agent of chaos for you. Just totally doubling the member count on the day in the blink of an eye. My partner manager doesn't understand how we do what we do. He's like, "What? I don't know. How are you guys doing that?" He quite literally told us that we could teach them a thing or two. He's like, "I don't understand. Your channel doesn't make any sense." And I was like, "Thank you." Your channel doesn't make any sense. That's the best thing you could tell me. AOZ. Yeah, that's not a bad touch point. AOZ saying there is the possibility. I didn't consider this. This is good. There is the possibility with the large Call of Duty audience on PC that this could lead to pretty big growth for PC Game Pass, which might make sense of why Phil Spencer said we see greater opportunities for growth on PC for Game Pass, right? It quite literally could be part of the strategy. Maybe that's how Phil Spencer... And again, I'm operating on the theory that Phil Spencer won this fight and told Satya, "You got to let us put Call of Duty on Game Pass." Right? Let me drop the 50 bomb that I owe you guys. You guys actually did it. You scrambled and doubled the membership on the day, so I'm going to go ahead and drop it. I tell you what, if you do it again, I'll do it again. You guys want to do it again? You want to go for 200? So if you double this, you currently have 101. If you guys double this, I'll do another one. I would only owe you 20, but I'll do it again. If you guys just keep doing it, you're like, well, let's double. Well, let's double. Let's do it again. All right. Well, I'll pay you. I'll pay up. I'll pay it forward to the community. I want to reply to some of these comments. Yeah, I mean, my kids love it. This guy says the only people who have anything negative to say about Game Pass don't have it. I mean, I have negative things to say about it, but it's because I think it's... I still believe that it's a form of value destruction to the stuff that hits it, but that doesn't mean that it's not incredible value. Bill, in 2018, Game Pass will lead to more game purchases. Xbox in 2023, that was an effing lie. LOL. And Raven starts it and says, all right, I think we can do it, and bumps the line to 102. Thank you so much, Raven. You guys basically have 7 minutes to do it. You have 7 minutes to do it. This guy says the only people who say it's bad are people who believe heavily in physical media and fanboys, basically all BS. I said, or they see it hurting the value of games. Like, I don't feel like that's a fanboy take to be like, that kind of hurts the value of games. All games are about shooting things. This gets annoying. I want to build something or engage in fun gameplay mechanics with other people who like to build things. Try Lightyear Frontier. That's a really cool game with building. You can play with other people. I'm getting Ultimate Game Pass, Doom the Dark Ages, Call of Duty Battlefield, Gears of War, E-Day, Star Wars Battlefront. Some of these games you don't even know when they're coming, though. I'm a shooter guy. I love shooters. Doom can't come soon enough. I should have been replying to these comments earlier. I try to do that for you guys. Game Pass Core includes online multiplayer. They rebranded Xbox Live as Game Pass Core. Doesn't include Call of Duty, though. That was the point I was making, was that Game Pass Core, they won't get Call of Duty. They'll have to buy it. That was the point I was making. This might be one of the worst Call of Duty sales of all time. Sure, the player numbers will be high, but the sales numbers won't be high as if it wasn't on Game Pass. I don't know. Maybe. I'll give you a maybe on that. I'll give you a maybe. This guy says, I'm not fair. Remember, Xbox is number one. Number one in what? What are they number one in? I would have thought so many things were going to be day one. I would have thought so many things were going to be day one, especially not Call of Duty. I figured they would release it later. A lot of us thought that. When we heard they were debating about putting it on, I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, I thought they were going to just be like, yeah, some games aren't going to hit. I wasn't really sure how they were going to handle the PR and the fallout. I don't know how you tell people, well, yeah, we're not doing that without it being, you know, a huge blow to morale and a huge blow to confidence in the brand. There was not an easy way for them to handle that. Now, the real question is, like, again, if Microsoft fiscally analyzes this and says, we don't want to do this anymore, then that's the other question, is how do you get away from doing it? Like, if they decide, no, we've got to downplay this. We've got to, well, maybe not downplay. We've got to shift down out of this. Like, the idea in my mind, again, this is all theory, but my theory is that, like, Phil Spencer won the fight. Is he going to be able to continue winning that fight? Is he going to be able to hold the line and say, we've got to keep doing this? With titles like Call of Duty, this is always the concern that I have. My concern is that Microsoft gets to dictate what happens. And if Microsoft walks in a room and says, we crunch the numbers, we can't justify doing this again. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you broach that subject with the public. I don't know how you announce that. You know. Especially when Phil sits down with IGN and is like, this is what we're doing going forward with our property. But with our property, you can either subscribe or buy. And if they change that messaging, which, I mean, I guess he said things that, you know, I guess he said things that they've walked back anyway. Like, well, not every game is going to hit PC day and date, and then that changed. As a former PC Master Race guy, I'm excited that Microsoft could be shaping into the PC console if the rumors of a hybrid are true. Yeah, I would love to have something in my living room that was easy to just, like, boot up and play, like, you know, Hades 2 early access. Like, I don't like having to fiddle with a PC. I don't want to do it. Did you see the new Gears game being a prequel trilogy? I did not see that, but that's not surprising. I really do think they want to go back and spend time in that era, because I think they can have more variety. You can have, you know, enemy types we've never seen, weapons we've never seen. You can have combat encounters we've never experienced. I think they did a good job in Gears 5. I liked Gears 5. I was one of the people that thought they did a good job with that. It felt more open. It felt more free. I love the inclusion of Jack in combat. And then at the very end, it went back to its roots of being more like linear set piece. You know, you'd go from one set piece to the next. And I liked that. I thought they did an excellent job. But the core fan base, I think they're celebrating this more than they would have celebrated a Gear 6. I can't gift or super chat. Been trying to figure it out for a while. I mean, I can't help you. I don't know why it wouldn't be working. I've gotten blocked from gifting sometimes, but that's when I have to do a bunch. They should start doing early access on Game Pass for their own property. Can you imagine Black Ops 6 played in early access on Game Pass? I mean, Phil basically made it to where they can't do that right now. He was like, these games are going to hit, you know, he's like, Call of Duty is going to hit at the same time everywhere. Even the beta is going to be the same time everywhere. So, you think Black Ops 6 is going to flop? Why do you think that? I think it's going to crush commercially. I think it's going to be insanely popular. The highest selling Call of Duties have historically been the Black Ops games. So, from everything we've seen from this one, I think it's going to do very well. I think it's going to do very well. Base sales are important. Devs care more about continued sales from microtransactions. I want to answer this question, and then we're going to go to writer's room. Okay, so somebody was asking, you know, what about all the microtransactions? So somebody's putting in chat right now, microtransactions made up 61% of Activision Blizzard's revenue last year. I think they're making a gamble with putting it on Game Pass. We'll see if it pays off. Right. Here's what I've always thought about Game Pass and microtransactions. I have always said that some of the best games for Game Pass would be like a live service ongoing game that has microtransactions, because sure, you're not getting the initial sale, but you're getting people in the game and you're increasing the likelihood of the sales of the microtransactions. I think I could be incorrect. I'm not saying that I'm incorrect. I'm just saying there's the possibility that people will be less likely to spend money in a game that they know they don't own. It's one thing, we know from research that mobile games and free-to-play games see an increase in microtransactions. Why? Well, because they get in for free. But the thing is it's a free game. But a game on a sub-service, it's like, well, I don't own this game. I'm just trying this game out. I'm just playing the campaign, whatever. So there could be an element where it folds back on itself and people are like, I'm not going to spend money in this game because I don't own it. It's not a free-to-play game. I'm playing it on Game Pass. Does that make sense? Like, are you going to buy a skin in a game that you don't own? That's the fundamental question that I'm asking. They might. It might be a total numbers game. Like, if we fill the funnel with this many millions of extra people, that's a lot of people who might buy a couple of skins, and that's just a bunch of money that we might have not have made ordinarily. But again, I'm like, like Eugene saying, I would never buy microtransactions or a piece of content for a game through a sub. It's a huge mental block. Right. Are there people that would say, I mean, I'm not really invested in this game. I tried it out, or I played the campaign, or whatever. So that could be another angle that Phil Spencer, again, in my theory and in my imagined reality here that I think happened, if he argued and said, no, we need to put Black Ops 6 on Game Pass, he might have said there's a potential that many millions of people will buy micros, which means we're going to make money off of them. You obviously have to pit that against all the people who now don't have to buy it at $70 a pop. Like, you really got to think about that. There's millions of people that don't have to buy Black Ops 6 at $70. And that $70 all goes to Microsoft and Xbox if it's a person on Xbox or PC through the Xbox browser, through the Xbox storefront, right, on PC. They make 100% of that 70. So you're hoping, well, they didn't give us a 70. Hopefully they spend that much on micros, because if not, it's still a loss. They didn't spend $70, but they bought a couple of skins. They spent 15 or 20. You still made less money on that person, you know? It's like, well, we gave them a free dinner, but they bought a $5 appetizer. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. You gave a bunch of people free steak dinners. Like, that's a ton of money lost. We'll see. We'll see. I think the microtransactions is a good way to look at it as well, that maybe help Phil win the fight. I'm going to keep cheering for Phil to get more control and for Microsoft to get less control, but we'll see. That's always been my hope, is that Microsoft backs off and their corporate policies stop affecting the games. that's been something I've harped on for a while, especially since we learned about 343. So I'm putting a link in chat. That is to our members only writers room. This is a behind the scenes look at how we plan the shows. So do me a favor. If you're not a member right now, consider becoming a member. We're trying to get the people paying for their own memberships to go up. There's about 620 of you, which is incredible. We'd love to see that hit 700. If it hits 700, I will do an extra stream, maybe like a Saturday night thing or something. We'll hang out, we'll laugh, we'll come up with something really fun to do. I don't know. We did Just Dance and goofy things like that in the past. Maybe we need to do something like that where I really embarrass myself. So if you're currently not paying for your own membership, consider doing that. You can upgrade to Member Plus. It's only $1 to upgrade. It's $6 instead of $5. And then that's basically you gifting a member to somebody else. You're making space for the people that cannot afford a membership. There's a lot of people here who get that gifted every month, and they need it. They cannot afford the membership. But if you can afford it, it's $5 or $6 a month, and you get into a month's worth of extra content. Consider doing that. It supports the channel directly. We are not a large channel, and I get to do this full time. I do this full time and provide for my family, and it's because of people like you getting behind the channel and supporting it in the way that you do. So click that link in chat to come to Writer's Room. I'm going to start that stream now. Thanks so much for being a member, and you may have gotten a member today. Another enormous day on the channel. You guys have secured the Friday night scary game. 101 members today on top of what you already had. You already had some incredibly big days, and you're currently sitting at 412 members. So if you can manage to get the remaining 88 and get to 500, then when I play the scary game on Friday night, my wife can mess with me. We've done this before, and you guys seem to like it. I'm going to end the stream about Xbox doubling down on Game Pass, and I'm going to bring people over with a redirect. Oops, I forgot to set redirect. Let me do that now before I end the stream. And there we go. And then I'll change that thumbnail to no longer say live. I thought that was a good discussion. I did. I thought we had people